2024 in council chambers, Sparta Township, Municipal Building, 65 Main Street, Sparta, New Jersey. The time is 7:03. The regular meeting is open. All council meetings are now live streamed and can be viewed at the following link, www.youtube.com/SpartaTWP/streams. Adequate notice of this meeting was provided to the public and the press on January 5th, 2024, by delivering to the press and posting on the township website a copy of the notice. Madam Clerk, may we have a roll call, please?
Councilman Hertzberg.
Here.
Councilwoman Quinn.
Here.
Councilman Chiarello.
I'm here.
Deputy Mayor Blumetti.
Here.
Mayor Clark.
Here. All right, let's all rise and salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now, before I begin, I do want to express my condolences, and I know everyone sitting up here also does, for Tom Collins, his brother, who passed away. So on behalf of the Sparta Township and council members, our condolences, prayers, and thoughts to the family. Next up are the approval of minutes. And may I have a motion to approve the March 21st, 2024 budget meeting minutes as presented?
I'll make a motion that we approve the budget meeting minutes from March 21st, 2024.
And may I have a second?
I will second it.
And before, both I and Councilman Hertzberg were not present at this meeting, so we will not be voting. So all who were present, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
And I abstain.
Abstain.
The budget meetings for March 21st, 2024 are approved. May I have a motion to approve the March 26th, 2024 regular meeting minutes as presented?
I make a motion that we approve the regular meeting minutes for March 26th, 2024 as presented.
May I have a second?
I will second it.
And I do note that Councilman Hertzberg was not present at the March 26th meeting, so he should abstain. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any abstention? We're now up to the manager's report. So I know that Jim is taking a much-deserved vacation this week, and so we do have our former town manager and very able Sam Rome.
Thank you, Mayor. What we have tonight is application for appointment of firefighter, Chief Chris Alucci. I would like to appoint Tanner Absey as a member of the Sparta Fire Department. The current members have been encouragement, friends, and acquaintances to join the ranks and describing how volunteer offers a challenge, but it's extremely satisfying way for residents to give back to the community. This word of mouth has led Tanner to the department. Chief Alucci is confident that Mr. Afsey will fulfill and complete the New Jersey state mandated firefighter 1 requirements and become a great asset to the department. The Independence Day Parade in conjunction with Sparta Elks Lodge 2356 is scheduled for Thursday, July 4th, starting at 10:30 on East Shore Trail, and then followed up by fun for the whole family at Dykstra Park. From our Parks and Recreation Department, Camp Sacagawea begins Monday, July 1st. Staff training and final preparations are being completed this week. Residents can find the Sparta Recreation Program activity calendar for the other summer camps and special events on the township website. Sparta Little League has several teams in the Williamsport tournaments, part of the Little League World Series over the summer, with some games being hosted at Station Park. The senior pool has opened and they continually take new members. The annual Sussex County Senior Olympics will begin tomorrow, June 26th. Rain date, June 27th, at Maple Grange Park in Vernon with the Sparta senior team. We wish them the best of luck. This concludes the report. Thank you, Mayor, Council, and residents of Sparta.
Thank you, Mr. Rome. May I have,
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to tag on to the manager's report. I thought this would be a good time for
Okay.
me to just express my appreciation to the Sparta Township Fire Department and the Sparta Township Police Department. Unfortunately, we had an event at our building on Thursday, June 13th, which brought out the fire department and including the chief himself. It fortunately was just smoke from burned out motors in our HVAC system and our well that resulted from an electrical surge, but went through the second floor of the building and the elevator shaft, and no one knew what really was going on till those folks got there, and they really were very thorough in going through the entire building to make sure that it was safe and to make sure that there was no fire to go along with some smoke, and cleared out the building, secured the building, and they just did a terrific job. So I wanted to personally and on behalf of my law firm, thank the Sparta Fire Department and Sparta PD, who also accompanied them to the building. That's all.
thank you, and thank you to our fire department, and thank you to the gentleman who is being appointed tonight. I'm glad to see that it seems like this is maybe the third week in a row that we've been appointing people to our fire department. So I applaud anyone who does that public service. So thank you on behalf of the town and everyone in it. You make us safe. Thank you. So we're now up to the first public comment period. This is limited.
Mayor?
Yeah, sorry.
The manager's report.
Oh, I'm sorry, we didn't approve it. I apologize. May I have a motion to accept the manager's report?
I move that we accept the manager's report as read.
May I have a second?
I will second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The manager's report is approved. As I alluded to, we are at the first public comment period of the night. This is limited to items that are not on the agenda. So if there's something that you want to talk about and you see it on the agenda, now's not the time. So again, please state your name and address for the record, and please be mindful of our 5-minute limit. So again, this is public comment period, limited to items that are not on the agenda.
How we doing tonight, guys? Kevin Salmeri, 30 Neely Drive. As you all know, I was accepted into the Affairs Committee a couple months ago. I just wanted to basically start off with the new short film that we are going to be doing later next month that will be placed in Burger and Butcher. Thank you, Josh. It's going to be a precursor for our show that we are going to be doing this fall that's going to be released on Apple TV. And I just wanted to quickly just, let the town council know about it. And if, we can spread the word about it. I can't give away too much right now, but let's just say there's some big names coming. And right now we just can't wait to help, this be on the news and bring economic opportunities to Sparta. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So is that official now on Apple, or we're not going to say? You don't have to say, never mind.
Anyone else for public comment on items that are not on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, we'll get to the expenditures. Deputy Mayor, would you please read the expenditures for June 25th, 2024?
I make a motion that we approve the expenditures for June 25th, 2024 in the amount of $7,032,591.24.
May I have a second?
I will second it.
All those in favor of approving the expenditures for June 25th, 2024, say aye.
Aye.
The expenditures of June 25th, 2024 are approved. Madam Clerk, could you please, we're now up to the ordinance, introduction of ordinance provision tonight. Madam Clerk, could you please read the title of ordinance 2408?
An ordinance authorizing an emergency appropriation under NJS 40A:4-53 to finance revision of master plan by the Township of Sparta and the County of Sussex, New Jersey.
May I have a motion to introduce ordinance 2408?
I'll make a motion to introduce ordinance 2408.
May I have a second, please?
I will second it.
Okay. Before we go to roll call, is there anyone from council who wants to be heard on the introduction of 2408?
Yeah, I would just like to share some context and background, particularly for the public who may not be quite as aware of what this is about. So we have as many of you know, we have a master plan, a comprehensive master plan. And our current master plan is long overdue for an update. It was created in 1984, so 40 years ago. So if you could pause and consider for a moment what you were doing in 1984. Hopefully you were all here in 1984. And how different life was back then. Now, since then, there have been some amendments along the way and some Band-Aids that were specifically targeted for certain needs. So the town center or the economic development zone or affordable housing. But those were not in any sense a comprehensive overview or a new look at a creation of a new master plan after this many years. The master plan, as you may know, is a blueprint for our community's future. So it's a planning document, it's a guide. It establishes the long-term vision for the development and trajectory of the community. It's prepared with feedback from residents, from business owners, from stakeholders, many types of stakeholders. And it uses methods to do that, to gather input through things like public meetings, public input sessions, surveys, presentations at other stakeholders' meetings. For instance, perhaps a Board of Ed meeting or a civic groups meeting. And also just holding information sessions and Q&A sessions with local organizations. It could include setting up booths at township events, just as examples. The process usually begins with studying the existing conditions. That includes things like demographics and housing and transportation and economic trends and other analyses. Also, it includes a thorough analysis of the existing and projected conditions. Some of the major components of a master plan, some of these are required, some are optional. Things like land use element, a housing element, economic development, circulation, utilities, community facilities, recreation, open space, historic preservation, and there's others. New Jersey municipal law specifically established a mechanism for the allocation of funding through something called special emergency appropriations for towns to prepare master plans. The section that applies to this is 4-53, and that's related to but distinct from 4-54, which is for funding of true emergencies, such as damage to public and private property by floods, hurricanes, et cetera. The special appropriations, emergency appropriations here, I'll read from the State of New Jersey Division of Local Government Services. Under the provisions of NJS 40A:4-53, a municipality may adopt an ordinance authorizing special emergency appropriations at any time during the year for the following purposes. And it lists purposes from A all the way down to I, including things like preparation of a storm system map, preparation of a complete reevaluation program, revisions and codification of ordinances, preparation of drainage maps for flood control purposes, and D, preparation of master plan or plans. Again, this is separate from the similar part of the provision that is for expenses for repairs and damage due to property damage from floods, hurricanes, et cetera. This process that we're looking to do with this ordinance does not establish new debt. It's not issuing bonds or short-term notes. The total amount is reserved, it's a maximum. So it's over multiple calendar years. This is not all going to happen by December. Only what's actually needed and used is spent from this allocation. The township's CFO, town manager, the planning and zoning department head carefully monitor what the professionals would bill for and what they're getting paid for out of this allocation. Then the allocation is put into the budget over a 5-year span. So who would be leading this work? So our existing professionals. So Catherine Sarmad from Harbor Consulting, who's our professional planner. Tom Collins, our planning board attorney. Dave Simmons, our planning board engineer. Dory Fox, of course, our planning and zoning department head. And again, with oversight from our CFO and town manager. Additional subcommittee volunteers include Ron Day, our planning board chairman. Ken Laurie, our zoning board chairman. Celeste Luciano, who's a planning board member. Mike Sylvester, a planning board member. Neil Sauerwein, who's the Environmental Commission vice chairman. Mike Devine, member of the public, who's here tonight. Allison Bretherick, member of the public. Jenny Derricks, member of the public. Brian Romanowski, member of the public. Christy Whitehouse, member of the public, and myself. This group will use extensive input from the public and the community stakeholders, again, through those multiple events, surveys, public meetings. The allocation that's in this ordinance for tonight is based on the estimates from our planners. And these are estimates based on what we think we know now, with the understanding that we don't know everything we need to know right now in terms of the full scope as we get into this. The allocation amount was received by and reviewed by our CFO, our town manager, and our Dory from our planning and zoning office. And their consensus is that this amount makes sense, and it makes sense to do it up front now and allocate this in case we need that full amount. Again, it's not used. If it's not used, it's not drawn down upon. The estimates that we receive from the professionals don't reflect the final stage of the work. So the master plan process, the proper process, it comes out at the end with a nice master plan document. The final step is to take that master plan and then update the ordinances, the zoning maps, other elements that the town uses for governance to match the master plan. So that work happens after the master plan, and that's pretty significant work and will take some time. So in this total allocation number is a piece of funding put in place for that work so that we don't just have a master plan sitting there, but we have to update the ordinances and the zoning maps to match it. And again, whatever isn't needed won't be spent, and the professional invoices, they'll be monitored by our staff here at Township. The dollar amount in total is $300,000. And again, that would be the maximum, and it would be put back into the budget over the next 5 years. So that's $60,000 maximum per year in the next 5 years' budgets. If you think about it, our annual budget is $30 million. So $60,000 is one-fifth of 1%, so it's 1/500th of the budget. And I would imagine that most people looking at a 40-year-old guidance document, a blueprint, would think that it's probably pertinent and reasonable to do that and support that kind of work at this time. Towns throughout New Jersey and the country use this mechanism, this special allocation, exactly for this reason, and that's why it's written into the ordinance, into this statute. And this gives us a chance to think strategically about our future using that broad community and stakeholder input. When I did some brief research and I looked at other towns, I looked at about 10, and all of them have used this same special allocation to get funding, to put it aside, and then pay themselves back over 5 years for exactly for this purpose. And those councils have supported that ordinance, and they move forward with this plan. So I think at this time it makes sense, and I know we'll talk about it again in the next meeting. But in my opinion, it makes sense for all of us as responsible government, responsible leaders, to take this opportunity now and approach it actually with some optimism and some commitment, to take a full look after it was done 40 years ago, embrace that chance and accept that obligation with foresight and with, care for our community and our families, friends, neighbors, and their children and their grandchildren, so that we have a blueprint in place that will guide us. So let me pause there. It was a lot, but I just wanted to make sure everyone had context of what this is all about, because it looks like a big number up front, and special emergency allocation sounds a little bit unknown. So I just wanted to put it out there and explain what was going on.
Okay, anyone else from,
Yeah, so it's an emergency appropriation, and that usually dictates that it's something that has come up that needs to be handled. Is that true?
This is actually a special emergency. Special emergency authorizations can be done over a 3-year to 5-year period. The last time we did one here was when we did the revaluation, which was about 10 years ago.
Right.
And that basically allows you to defer the funding in that over the 5-year period.
Right, and we were overdue with that, so that was kind of an emergency.
Yeah, and again, the master plan, I guess, needs some updating as well. I mean, it hasn't been done, from what I could tell, probably at least
Sam?
in the last 20 years, maybe.
No, I agree with that. I just don't agree with the fact that we've been planning this since last year and now calling it an emergency, especially in a position where we're in a budget crisis. It's not in the budget, we don't have the money. So now we're doing an emergency appropriation to get something done that's not an emergency. That's my personal opinion. I don't think the taxpayers need to deal with this burden.
From the financial standpoint, my only buy-in with that is the fact that if we need to do it, we need to do it as a special emergency. So
I agree.
we can defer that funding. Time-wise, I just made it, I know they were talking about it through the fall, early spring and stuff like that. But again, if we had pushed forward and done the ordinance before the introduction of the budget, basically, we would have had to raise 1/5 of it in this year's budget as well. So this just allows us to defer it. Now they can get into it, get the professionals hired and start the light work. And then the first payment will be in the next year's budget of the
I understand that part of it. I just don't agree with spending this kind of money in this budget situation. That's my personal opinion. I don't think it's an emergency. I don't think it needs to be done this year, and I think the current budget doesn't call for it.
It's actually listed as one of the reasons to use the special emergency appropriations. It says preparation of master plan or plans.
I heard you say that.
Okay.
I still don't think it's,
I'm concerned,
Appropriate.
who audits this to make sure that the term emergency appropriation according to this is accurate?
once we
Is it the state?
Once we do the second reading, a copy of this ordinance will be forwarded down to the state for their review as well, because they need that to basically set up down there that we're going on a 5-year special emergency authorization. So that, sort of they keep it in the file down there so they know that, hey, look, you guys have to raise, 1/5 of this each year for the next 5 years.
So do they determine if it's an emergency?
As long
Are
as.
they going to audit it, is my question.
No, they're not gonna audit it because this is the majority of the way that every town, the borough, and the state do these type of things.
The
And
only
and most of the time, usually a 20 to 25-year window is usually when they look at, codifications, master plans, different things like that. Like, normally, every 10 years, you would probably look at doing a reval on the taxes. However, now there's programs where you can do what they call a accelerated reval. So there's a new program out there where they come in now and like take 10% of the properties for the whole town, and then systematically start increasing each year, so that a reval probably would cost us right now probably about the tune of $2.5 million if we did a full-blown reval. This way, we're gonna be able to probably put 150 to 200 away and get the valuation increased, so much each year.
So my direct question, the reason why I'm asking this is because before we have been told that, and the way that the other municipalities did it was they identified a need, they have a need to do the master plan, and then everything started from that point forward, correct? So my issue is, we've had a master plan subcommittee and been paying professionals to do a master plan for the better part of many months now. So why I'm asking if the state is going to audit it is how are we going to tell them it's an unforeseen emergency that we do our master plan when we've been paying for it for 6 months?
Even though they may have been doing that, I haven't physically received a purchase order request for any professionals to do this part of it.
So no professionals have been paid for the time that they have put in with the subcommittee members or the planning board members when it comes to the master plan at all since the committee started?
Can't pay them if the money's not in place.
So they've done the work and we owe them the
So
money.
they've done the work and now we owe them the money.
Again, that's beyond my knowledge. There has been no purchase orders issued or vouchers, so.
So they have not been paid.
There were 3 meetings. So,
Okay, so, I understand the need to review the master plan completely. I understand that it's X amount of years. I am uncomfortable with a blanket. We've had many discussions about where we thought the price of this was. So initially, we have been told for many, 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 many years, minimum $500,000. Then we had a discussion and we were told it's $125,000. And I said, that cannot be possible. There's no way you're doing a master plan with all these professionals for $125,000. And I started requesting paperwork. I never got the paperwork. Now we're at 300,000, which is closer to the 500,000 that originally we were told it would probably be. Today, we formally received the information from the professionals, which comes in at $165,000. I understand that there's different things that have to be built in, but doubling it to me seems significant. Am I correct with the number that we just raised our budget, $653,000 roughly dollars? Is that correct?
Yes.
And so now we're talking about another 50% of the entire amount that we raised our taxes, right? In one shot over 5 years.
This will be basically 1/5 of the 300, the 300,000 each year.
No, I'm asking relative to the increase that we increased our budget $653,000, correct?
Yes,
This is $300,000, which is just under 50% of the overall amount that we raised our budget. Is that correct?
that's correct.
Okay. So what we're saying is, this proposal says we're going to get into basically a HELOC loan that you would do for your home. So you earmark, you can go to the bank, there's $300,000 sitting there, and you can draw on it if you want to, or when you want to. But if you don't touch it, that amount stays there and you can put it back. Is that the correct understanding?
Yes.
Okay. So can we not look at a different kind of funding model? What is the timeline that is, what is your proposed timeline? Because the other thing is, in the documentation returned from the professionals, there's no timeline. So it just says, this is our estimate. So is this their estimate, whether it's 1 year, 3 year, 5 years, into the abyss? This is what they're saying it's
yeah,
gonna be?
the, Catherine Sarmad, our planner, indicated it's about 12 months, 12 to 18 months. Does the ordinance work following this, right? So it's going to be probably more like 18 months, I would imagine, the way things usually go. But that amount is for the whole project. It's not for 2024, it's not for 2025. That's the amount for the work.
This will be set up when it's, it will be set up in its own special fund. Basically, it'll be reserved for master plan, basically will be the name of the account. And that money will be drawn down upon over that 5-year period. At the end, any money that's left, once we deem that all the work is completed, would be lapsed back to surplus.
And if there's additional money that is needed,
If there's additional money that's needed, we would have to do a supplemental emergency or basically the money would have to be raised in the regular budget, whatever year that may occur in.
so is it possible that instead of doing this $300,000 in one shot, that we look at a different way to fund it that has benchmarks and gates in it? So in other words, we are dedicating X amount, instead of $300,000, if we say, okay, we're gonna look at $50,000 for the next 6 months. And then after 6 months, we get a report and an update from the planning board. Where are you? Are you on track? What progress is going on? And then if they need an additional amount of money, we may be able to, I mean, God willing that the budget is better next year, we can look at that and maybe instead of funding this thing over 5 years, we could, do you see what I'm saying? Break it up into chunks rather than taking this whole amount and just running wild with it with no stop, no gates, no checkpoints, no anything. I would feel more comfortable with taking that funding, that way forward with funding this, rather than just saying it's $300,000. If we run out, we run out. We don't know what's going on with it. And,
Well, basically what should be happening here is we should be allowing our in-house professionals, our staff, to run, to drive the bus here. I mean, basically, any of the professionals that need to be hired should be going through our department heads of the respective departments and everything else. Nothing against the board members, but our department heads are the professionals that know how to do the POs, that know how to contact professionals and know the paperwork that we need.
so it doesn't address what I'm recommending.
Yeah.
I'm recommending that we do it in smaller chunks instead of saying, okay, it's $300,000, off we go. We get no benchmarks. We don't know what's going on or the status, what you need, what you actually need, what you might need down the road. So what I'm recommending is breaking this up to say, okay, maybe it's 50,000. I'm uncomfortable taking half of the overall amount that we just raised our budget and just saying, okay, here it is, even though it's over five years. What I'm trying to do is work on a different way to fund it where we can actually, keep this going through the end of the year until we get our handle on what next year's budget's gonna look like. And maybe we will be able to say then next year, okay, we have funding for $150,000 and we don't have to kick the can or finance something that's gonna take 2 years and finance it over 5 years.
I,
you see
yeah,
what I'm saying?
I do understand the concern. I think, and Sam, correct me if I'm wrong, that it's advantageous, even if we had the money next year, it's so advantageous to use this mechanism so we can, without interest, put it back in over 5 years instead of doing it that 1 year or 2 year hit. It's advantageous to, so it doesn't matter when it's spent, right? It's that it goes into the budget over 5 years. So it's only
have to put it
60,000
back.
max per year.
But you have to put it
We
back.
do eventually over 5 years.
So it's not like it's free money.
No,
that
no,
we're
it's
just paying
interest, no, it's
ourselves.
interest-free.
And then what happens if it goes to 500,000? This is what I'm
That-
saying.
yeah, that's
I
not-
feel more comfortable.
That's not permitted in here,
I feel more
to go
comfortable.
to 500,000. And
There's the recommendations are very vague to me. The recommendations from the professionals don't give really a timeline. There's no, and also my understanding is, are we not getting a presentation on this whole thing at our next meeting? Is there plans to have a presentation to the council of the master plan?
not yet. There is, but it's on hold. We need this passed. So I think, are you referring to the planning board, the parking design standards, I think, with the next meeting with Catherine
I'm,
Piak, maybe?
if we're gonna spend this kind of money, I mean, again, I'm trying to be very mindful that this is a large chunk of change and also balance that with the need to be able to continue working and identifying, areas in the master plan review. So
Yeah,
I'm bringing a different funding model that has checks and balances along the way before we just open up the floor to half of the amount, just under half of the amount that we just raised our overall budget.
yeah, but the annual hit is 1/10 of the amount, right? It's 60,000. That's what it comes out to. But just to
It's
address your
only-
point about
if
the
it's
checks and
only
balances,
60,000.
this today has checks and balances in it. We have Sam, we have Dory, we have Catherine, who's project planning this whole thing out. There's a Gantt chart, there's a whole project plan that's going to be online. There's going to be full transparency. They've done this before, they're professionals. And it's not going to be me doing it, somebody else on a part-time basis. It's going to be the professionals running this with what work stream we're in, where the input, where the community events happening, how we're going to advertise them. It's already something they've done multiple times. So their checks and balances back to Sam and Dory and Jim are going to be fully there. And they know that already because Dory and they went out and already asked for that proposal
I'm
to
not
get
relying on
fine-tune that.
anyone else to tell us what is going on with this. I would be more comfortable giving smaller amounts of money that are more manageable, in my opinion,
Mm-hmm.
and then saying, okay, what is the first benchmark? It's this. Okay, great. You have this much money to get to this point. And then we review. Okay, now you need more. Okay, great. Now let's have that conversation. I am extremely concerned that this is going to be well over $300,000.
Well, then we don't approve the rest. I mean, we deal with that at that point.
Then we're going to have
you
half
know?
a master plan.
But
What's
if
the
we,
point of-
I think
of
we're in the same
spending
point
money?
though, because if we do it in like 50,000 chunks every 6-9 months, then that could be wasted money if we don't do the next. I think this way doesn't mean we're spending that, right? It's just putting it out there so that with the right oversight, it's there for you, so we don't have to stop for 3 months and then get going again. Stop for 3 more months or 6 months and get going again. So this is a way to, with the right checks and balances in place, again, by township staff, that they monitor, like they do all the professional fees along the way.
But we're being asked to appropriate this money. We, us.
Right.
So what I'm saying is I feel more comfortable doing it in smaller chunks.
I don't
with
think smaller
benchmarks
chunks is,
directly to the council
I think
so
we need to,
what's going
we
on.
need to kind of get to a vote, but I think
So
that,
all right, that's
I mean, I
fine.
think that, one, there's nothing that would prevent the planning board from coming to us and giving us progress reports as they move along. Saying, hey, we see that you've spent $50,000. Could you please tell us where you are in the stage of the master plan? So we can build in the reviews that Councilwoman Quinn wants without having to revisit this issue, time and time again.
yeah, by the way, excuse me, that those are built into what I understand already, those
Yeah, so there
checkpoints?
will be
Yeah.
oversight by us to make sure that the money isn't being frittered away. Second thing is that sometimes big projects require big spending, and this is not an insignificant issue. If you talk to anyone in this town, there are grave concerns about the development direction that this town is heading in. And the way you deal with that is through a master plan review. So so I would caution everyone to recognize there is a need here, and it's a need that the public has made loud and clear. And so what we're doing is what we were elected to do, which is to respond to what the community wants. And I think getting caught up in certain procedural mechanisms is missing the issue. And frankly, seems like rearranging the chairs on the Titanic, if you would talk to some people. And so the idea is, let's deal with the master plan review now. Let's have our professionals who have come up with this number. This isn't drawn out of thin air. They came up with this number. And they can be held to account and brought before us. So I don't think we need to get into too many procedural mechanisms about how we, let's appropriate the full amount. And they will report to us as they reach certain benchmarks, or we can tell them, you need to come to us every 3 months and let us know where you are. But anyway, I think we've detained ourselves enough. There will be a hearing on this if it does pass. But I think that it's a significant need and one that is responsive to the community, and particularly the people that elected us. So with that, I know, Josh, you had another comment.
Well, you were talking about, Dean had mentioned that there were checks and balances. But my concern is there weren't checks and balances when you guys passed the ordinance requiring all of the businesses, all of the renters in the ED zone, no matter if they were the exact same business going in, to have to go in front of a board, costing these small businesses thousands and thousands of dollars.
I'm sorry, that's-
Businesses,
I'm sorry, finish your thought.
businesses lined up to complain about that. As recently, one of the businesses sat for the entire night with all their professionals. They said, sorry, we've hit our time limit, come back next time. They're leaving. Where was the checks and balances there? Do you still stand behind that?
I wasn't involved in it. That was actually, it wasn't on the
That was
council.
ordinance 2101 that introduced those changes. So that was before Mayor Clark and Deputy Mayor Blumetti were on the council, and actually I voted no on that ordinance 2101. So that's where those changes were introduced, that everybody in that ED zone has to go to the planning board.
But, all right, so my point is, where are the checks and balances? Were there any of the professionals saying that that was a bad idea?
I
I
wasn't
don't know,
part of
you were,
drafting.
you were there, Josh. What happened?
I don't know.
I wasn't part of writing that. Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. But
Well,
my point is, I want to make sure there are checks and balances so things like that do not happen.
Well, you're barking up the wrong tree because that ordinance 2101 was not
It
passed
wasn't
by
21,
us.
Dan, they said it in the meeting,
Yeah,
but
it was.
it wasn't in
I
21.
went back and looked. I can
Please do, because that's
I
not
thought
what
I
the
saw sent you
professional
a copy
said.
of that.
It definitely wasn't done last year or this year. So
But whether that is kind of impertinent to the issue before us. The issue before us is whether we are going to introduce ordinance 2408. So may I have we had a motion, we had a second, we had discussion. I'm going to close off council discussion now, and we can go to a roll call vote.
Councilman Hertzberg,
No.
Councilwoman Quinn,
I'm going to abstain until I have a chance to, I just got this documentation today, so I need a chance to just review it. This is a huge amount of money, and as I verbalized, I have big concerns about just appropriating it without the correct checks and balances and mechanisms in place. I need to review these documents, so I'm abstaining.
Councilman Chiarello,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Blumetti,
yes,
Mayor Clark.
Yes. And am I correct, Tom, that this is an ordinance that requires a two-thirds? Is that right?
Well, the ordinance is introduced. However, when we proceed to a hearing for adoption, it is going to require a two-thirds vote. of
Okay, but the
council.
introduction does not. So it is officially introduced.
It's introduced,
Okay.
but not adopted.
Okay.
And the hearing and the ultimate vote will require a two-thirds vote.
Okay.
4 votes from the council.
Okay, and so I will, if, please get Councilwoman Quinn, whatever reasonable information that you have readily available to hopefully allay her concerns, so that in 2 weeks, we can do what we were elected to do, which is to have Sparta look at its master plan and make sure that we are aligning our ordinances with the direction that the town people want, and taking care of certain hot issues and zones that have become problematic, particularly leading to increased traffic, increased accidents. And so I hope that we can, in 2 weeks, pass this. So now we're up to,
Josh, I resent that to you.
Mayor, also, just to clarify as well, that all this time, there's nothing that prevents the planning board from looking at any zone or relooking at any zone and recommending updates to it. We saw it with the ordinance that we put in place to safeguard the township against any more warehouses coming in that are over 175,000 square feet. It doesn't require an entire master plan to continue that work. And I certainly hope that the planning board is still looking at and reviewing the zones. I know they had a subcommittee that was looking at that, but changes can be made if there is an emergent need. And I think that it's very important for us to continue that, even, I don't know if that's still currently going on, and that's part of what the master plan committee has been looking at or not. But just to be clear, we do not need to do an entire master plan to make updates to the land use ordinances. So I just want to be.
I think that's an excellent point. I think that we have to remember that the land use ordinances are our responsibility in the end. We're the ones that pass it. And so when town council sees an emergent need for certain zones, I think it behooves us to act on that. And we can act on it, and then the planning board can determine whether it is in conformity with our master plan. But I think there are some certain zones that are out there now that do present an emergent need. And that the fact that if we go through a master plan review, that does not preclude us from identifying those zones and dealing with them. Again, the planning board will have input, but I think that there are some zones that we, as town council, should consider that are presenting an emergent need, and they may come up in subsequent meetings.
But we don't drive that, the planning board does. We don't drive what the planning board does in a master plan review. We don't control that. The planning board does.
No, I was addressing your point that going through the master plan process does not preclude town council from passing ordinances dealing with certain zones, and we don't have to wait around for 18 months to figure out whether we have a problem in a zone and we need to tighten up our ordinances. There is probably plenty of evidence that we can use right now to determine that there are certain areas that are problematic. There's certain ways that our ordinances are written that are leading to problems in that zone.
So we could look at that proactively right now as a council.
That's exactly my point. Yes, we
You don't need a
could.
master plan. What I'm saying is, we could do that right now without a master plan.
Well,
That's not true, because the changes that can be made by the council need to be consistent with the existing master
But we can
plan.
drive them, and then they go back. The process is, if there's something that we want to drive, Tom, correct me if I'm wrong, we can make that recommendation. Then it goes back to the planning board to make sure that it's in compliance with the master plan. And then it comes back to the council, where then it would be adopted, introduced, and then adopted. I just have one more question just before we move up this topic, and it's time sensitive, so I'm just going to take a minute to ask it. Given some of the amounts of these estimates, Sam, do we have to go to bid? Is there a bid process that's required for these?
Most of them are probably professional services, so it necessarily doesn't need a bid, but you have to look at weigh out all of the options that are in there to make sure they're meeting all of our needs. And
So we don't need to go to bid if it's over, because I know there's a threshold, right? And then we have to go out. There's a threshold for services. So my question is, based on some of the amounts that are in here, does it require us to have to go to bid?
basically, we don't have to necessarily go to bid. It's with the professional services contract. We would weigh out each professional individually, see what they're giving us, and it's a judgment call more or less to see who's providing us with the best and most efficient service.
Okay.
So building on two things, if the council is taking proactive action and making ordinance land use changes, that review goes against the current version of the master plan. And so if we feel that master plan is outdated, any changes that we make is going to be held up to see if it comports with a plan that we might feel is dated. And so that doesn't negate the need for updating our master plan. And secondly, building upon what Councilman Hertzberg's saying, there's one thing that, Councilman Hertzberg glaringly pointed out in Section 2101, and maybe this slipped through everybody, but, there were two sections in there that required every CO to go through the full planning board, and that's a change that I would like to see made as soon as possible. So I guess I'll work with the mayor and attorney and manager to see if we can maybe make a tweak right there and sort of fast track that. That's all I have.
All right, thank you. All right, we're now up to ordinance 2409. Madam Clerk, could you please read the title of ordinance 2409?
An ordinance appropriating the total sum of $2,500,000 from General Capital Improvement Fund for funding various capital improvements or purposes by the Township of Sparta and the County of Sussex, New Jersey.
May I have a motion to introduce ordinance 2409?
I move that we introduce ordinance 24-09 as read.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
And before we go to roll call, just one question, Sam. This is from a bond ordinance we already approved. Is that right? We're
No,
simply
this is
appropriating funds.
This is the actual money that I funded in the budget this year to do capital projects, which consist of roads, parks, building and grounds, all the various improvements that the departments do. There's money in there that goes to fire. There's money that goes to PD for their capital stuff. And this is consistent with the amount of money that we put in last year's. We did have 3 million in the budget for capital. The other 500 will go into the capital improvement fund undesignated that can be used for emergency purposes or to fund other ordinances. So again, this is just consistent with what we've done in the past as far as our funding for capital.
And it's consistent with the budget that we approved. Is that right? That you allocated
Yes.
already in the budget,
We had
2,500,000?
3 million in the budget, 500 goes into reserve, and the other 20, or 2.5 million goes out to pay for the projects in cash. So basically, all of our road improvements that we've done over the last 10-year period, which is probably at least 90 to 95% of every road in the township has been overlaid.
So just to confirm, this money is not in addition to anything, it's already earmarked in the budget. All we're doing right now is
Is
we are
putting it in
moving
place.
it from one space to another.
Yeah.
So that it can be utilized to do all the projects and the day-to-day maintenance and all the different things that happen
Yes,
under the area of capital improvements.
yes.
Okay.
Anyone else have questions before we go to a roll call vote? Madam Clerk, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Councilman Hertzberg,
Yes.
Councilwoman Quinn,
Yes.
Councilman Chiarello,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Blumetti,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes. So 2409 has been introduced. Madam, could you please read the title of ordinance 2410?
An ordinance appropriating the total sum of $500,000 from Water Capital Improvement Fund for funding various water capital improvements or purposes by the Township of Sparta and the County of Sussex, New Jersey.
May I have a second, please?
I move that we introduce ordinance 24-10 as read.
And again.
I will
we-
second.
Okay, thank you. Sam, this is your answer to the questions for 2409 equally apply to 2410, is that right?
That's correct, except this is for the water operating utility instead of the general fund.
With that, Madam Clerk, may I have a roll call vote?
Councilman Hertzberg,
Yes.
Councilwoman Quinn,
Yes.
Councilman Chiarello,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Blumetti,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes. 2410 is introduced. Madam Clerk, could you please read the title of ordinance 2411?
An ordinance of the Township of Sparta amending the salary ordinance for non-union and union employees.
May I have a motion to introduce ordinance 2411?
I make a motion, we introduce 2411.
May I have a second?
I will second it.
And before we vote, Sam, can you tell us just quickly the purpose of 2411?
2411 is just to basically gives us the range of salaries for each individual position. The overall amount that we had in the budget for this would be the non-union employees as far as salary increases was 2.25%. And this basically just establishes the ranges to make sure that those salaries fall within that range. Basically, payroll clerk looks at all of the salaries and makes sure that, okay, with a 2.25, this is where this person's going, and making sure that the salary ranges fit into that.
Thank you. So it's not appropriating any salary? It's
No,
simply
it doesn't
telling the
establish
ranges.
any salary. It just gives us the range to be able to set a salary, should we have to hire a new person or something like that. One may be like on the low side, but again, we want to make sure that if we bring in a new person to fill a position and we don't pay them exactly what the tenured person was making, we want to make sure it fits.
Sam, in this, or is every single range extended upwards, or is it just the ranges that have individuals and then near the top end of the range?
Every range is looked at
Okay.
individually, just in case, there may be some position where we bring somebody in.
For that
wasn't
example.
there,
Got it. Okay.
Any other questions? If not,
So before I will, at the hearing, before the hearing, can you please ask the payroll clerk to send me, because it's hard to look at this. This is only what the recommendations are moving forward, minimum, maximum. I would like to see every one of these, the listing for the current one that we have right now, so that I can look through all of these and see what's changing.
Yeah, I can have her put together a sheet. I know she has a detail sheet more that she actually uses
I just want to
for
see
her
the
payroll
latest
info.
copy of this and what changes. And moving forward, I think when we get these kinds of things, it's really helpful to just highlight what the changes are, or to give like a red line version that goes along with it, so that we can see what changes. It's just hard to see here. I can't tell what changed. So prior to the hearing, so sooner rather than later, can I please get a copy of
Yes.
the one that's in place right now from the payroll clerk?
Yes.
Thank you.
and Sam, what's the source of the ranges? Meaning, where did you get what source document is there that gives you what the minimum and maximum are?
Basically, we just look at historical data from the prior years, knowing that we've got a percentage increase and just make sure that whatever salary is there will fit within that percentage increase.
Okay. Thank you. With that, Madam Clerk, may I have a roll call vote on ordinance 2411?
Councilman Hertzberg,
Yes.
Councilwoman Quinn,
Yes.
Councilman Chiarello,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Blumetti,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes, 2411 is introduced. Next up, we have a hearing on an ordinance. This is the next step after you've had an introduction, you get a hearing, and this is where the public can comment if necessary. Madam Clerk, could you please read the title of ordinance 2406?
An ordinance accepting the deed right-of-way dedication from Delmar Woodport LLC to the Township of Sparta.
And now we are open to public comment on ordinance 2406. Is there anyone from the public wishing to be heard on ordinance 2406? All right, seeing no one, I will bring it back to council. Any member of council have any discussion or comments with respect to 2406? Okay, with seeing none, may I have a motion to adopt ordinance 2406?
I move that we adopt ordinance 2406 as it was read.
May I have a second?
I will second.
Madam Clerk, may I have a roll call vote?
Councilman Hertzberg,
Yes.
Councilwoman Quinn,
Yes.
Councilman Chiarello,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Blumetti,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes. Ordinance 2406 is approved. We are now at the second public comment period of our evening. This is limited to the resolutions. So you'll see on paragraph 9 of the agenda, which is on page 5, are all the resolutions that are up for consideration tonight. Is there anyone wishing to be heard on the resolutions?
Yeah, Mayor, maybe I'm out of order, but I had hoped to talk about one of the ordinance that was introduced. And since it's on the agenda, I don't know when or if I'm allowed to distress that. Can I do that now or later or?
Well, I think, and as a former council person, you're probably, familiar with protocol and procedure. So I think if it has to do with an ordinance, that isn't a resolution. And so, but there is a comment period that I call the grab bag at the end. So if you would, Mike, it would be appreciated if you could reserve that till later.
Sure.
Good. I'm glad you came back, Landon, and I hope you will be talking
I'll just make
about
this
one of the
brief real
resolutions,
quick.
particularly 9-8.
Yes, 9-8. Hi, I'm Landon Tanieri. I just got a bloody nose out of nowhere, so I'll make this real brief. But I've been really working on this trail project for the last 2 years. I've identified it as an issue, working with the county historian. I've got the opportunity to create a nonprofit now. Hardest and Historical, we're working on it. Thank you so much. And essentially, this is the first letter of support from one of the municipalities that this abandoned railroad runs through. My goal is to go to the other municipalities, get similar letters of support, and ultimately have the commissioners really identify that as a key issue that they need to solve. The Delaware-Lackawanna and Western Railroad is 22 miles long. It's all abandoned. Majority of it's already owned by the county, including the 4 miles in Sparta. And it's just sitting ducks waiting to be used. Hopefully, there can be more municipalities to follow suit. Currently, there's a lot of progress in Franklin with the NJDEP for their portion. About 2 miles, they're actually going to test out and clear it and see how it goes. And hopefully, we can start to see a little bit of an expansion through the other municipalities. But this is a non-binding recommendation besides the portion that creates a trail committee from the subcommittee. So all recommendations, I'm here to give anyone from the public a presentation, how it looks. And I'm really happy that you guys are entertaining this. And I'm gonna go sort out my bloody nose, so thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Landon,
Thank you.
before you leave, I think it's important that you and I have a conversation after this, because I think that maybe in one of my other roles, involved with the leadership team of the Sussex County League of Municipalities, we are putting together survey information for all the municipalities with regard to opportunities for shared services.
That's
Honestly, I think where this would be great is to look at it from that level and see if we can't do something shared across the municipalities in total, rather than trying to chunk away at it piece by piece by piece by piece, maybe get a committee together, and then maybe there are some shared services costs. I know they're looking at shared services for around recreation. This would fall there, possibly under conservation and things like that. So I think it might be, we're going to have that discussion because I'm going to ask to have that carved out. And if you're not here to hear why I'm going to ask for it to be carved out, that's why. I think there might
problem.
be a better, more efficient way to,
So I can
Look
give
at
you
it
a
in
little bit
total.
of an insight from why we're doing this. So I joined the Chamber of Commerce because we have a Sussex County Trails partnership. And essentially, they advertise on this brochure all these different projects that are supposed to get done. One of them is a park at Sparta Junction, a Pimple Hills State Park, which is in Sparta. So all these amazing ideas that are supposed to be for us. And I'm like, why is this not done? So I finally, after finally getting to the root of the issue, I realized that it just seems like that this has been an issue and a problem that has been done before. I've gotten documents from 2002, 2010. Like, this isn't the first time someone's had this idea. Seems to be that there's been a couple roadblocks. So the Sussex County Trail Partnership, Tammy Horsfield, the NJDEP superintendent for the northern region, Josh Awoski, actually just got moved to Liberty State Park. So we kind of had another bit of a refresh there. But what he wanted to do was get these letters from all the municipalities. That's his goal. And once he gets those letters, or now it's actually going to be the Swartzwood superintendent's moving up to take his position until there's that gap gets filled. Once he gets these letters, he's able to now show how there's an interest. Not like you guys are willing to chalk up any money, but just your citizens are interested in seeing this project come to fruition and want to be a part of how it gets done.
Right.
So hopefully, you guys consider that, and you guys can be at the table and actually the leader amongst the 9 other municipalities and really stamp your authority on how you want this to get done. So I appreciate you guys really entertaining this and listening to what I have to say. But also, thank you guys all for your commitment to this town. It definitely does not go unnoticed. You guys spend a lot of time, and I really appreciate it. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
take care, Landon.
Back.
Oh, Landon, if you, you're coming back?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other member of the public wishing to be heard on the resolutions? Okay, seeing none, I think that we should carve out, meaning for separate vote, 9.3, 9.4, 9.5, 9.8, 9.9, 9.10, 9.11, 9.12. That means we will do together 9.1, 9.2, 9.6, and 9.7. Is there any member of council wishing to carve out an additional resolution? And that would be not either 9.1, 9.2, 9.6, or 9.7?
I move that we approve resolutions 9-1, 9-2, 9-6, and 9-7.
May I have a second?
I will second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 So resolutions 9.1, 9.2, 9.6, and 9.7 are approved. We are now up to resolution 9.3. May I have a motion to approve resolution 9.3 which reads, Resolution of the Township of Sparta authorizing a commodity resale system services agreement with Northern Hills Academy.
I move that we approve Resolution 9-3.
May I have a second?
I will second.
And before we vote, Sam, can you explain, this is to allow Northern Hills Academy to pay our fuel prices, is that it? And then if that's true, what is it that allows them to do so?
Basically, we will be selling them on a commodities agreement, the fuel. What it basically allows is they get the fuel at almost municipal cost, almost what we're paying for it. The DPW basically runs it because the pumps are out by them, but they add on a charge to cover the maintenance of our pumps and stuff on top of this. It's a benefit for a nonprofit because they actually can get the fuel at a much cheaper price than they could at the pump.
And Mr. Mayor, I would just, to confirm all of that, indeed, it's permitted under the cooperative purchasing rules for the state. We do, as you'll see in 9-4, have to go through an approval process and file an application with the DCA. As I understand it, and Sam, correct me if I'm wrong, the township manager was actually approached by Northern Hills Academy and proposed this. Northern Hills Academy is affiliated with the Sussex County Educational Services Commission. It's a not-for-profit school that provides services through the commission, and therefore it does qualify under that cooperative purchasing rule. And what we're doing here with 9-3 is presenting a resale system services agreement that's going to be based upon 9-4, which is going to be the application to the DCA, the Department of Community Affairs. We're presenting the agreement to them. They're going to review it all. They will make a determination if our system is appropriate. And if they approve it, then indeed this agreement would go into effect. So this agreement, assuming it's approved this evening, it still will be contingent upon, of course, Northern Hills signing the agreement and also the DCA approving the agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. That's a very helpful explanation.
Can I ask, what is the nature of the Northern Hills Academy? I'm not familiar with that.
I'm not personally familiar with them, but I understand they provide special needs educational services.
Thank you. So would it make sense to pass 9-3, 9-4 at the same time?
It certainly would make sense to me.
Okay.
And Mr. Ryan, the fact that North Hills Academy, just to clarify and confirm, it's a public school, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Open up to special needs students.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, and at the suggestion of, but I guess if we're going to add 4, we need to make a separate, we're going to have to restart it and add a motion for 9-3 and 9-4, because
I don't
that's,
think we made, oh yeah, we did have a
yeah, we
motion.
only did it for
Okay, never mind, so we
9-3.
could just do
So
it separately.
I will, can I withdraw my motion for 9-3?
Might be faster just to do 9-3 than
9-3,
do 9-4.
Yeah, let's just, okay, so before us is
9-3.
9-3. So all those in favor of 9-3, say aye.
Aye.
9-3 has passed. Resolution, may I have a motion to approve Resolution 9-4?
I move that we approve Resolution 9-4.
May I have a second, please?
I will second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
9-4 has passed. Next up is Resolution 9-5, a resolution authorizing the tax collector to hold an electronic tax sale for the year 2024. May I have a motion to approve Resolution 9-5?
I will make a motion to approve Resolution 9-5.
May I have a second?
I will second it.
Okay, and before we vote, what is it that we are selling in this tax sale? Is that, and I didn't see anything
Well,
identified.
Basically, 9-4 is the tax sale, unless they got swapped on my copy
It
here.
got swapped.
9-5.
The tax sale basically is authorizing tax collector to use an outside company to basically collect and all the money for the tax sale. So basically, it actually works out quite well for that because In the past, when we had tax sales in-house, we were receiving probably $400,000 to $500,000 in cash in that one afternoon, and it was crazy for the girls to try to get all that counted and to the bank. So doing an electronic tax sale is much more efficient. We get more bidders, we get larger bidders than we would get just having someone in the house. And basically, the cost is minimal compared to the gain.
And so this is really dealing with the method by which we do the tax sale.
Yes.
The method has now, we're moving from whatever we had before to an electronic medium.
Yes.
Okay.
And we've received, in the past couple of years of doing this, we've received larger tax sale premiums. A premium, again, is when you have multi-bidders on one lot, they'll bid to give you a premium to basically try to get that property if they have a big enough interest that they're going to foreclose and whatever else. So last year, I believe we took in probably almost $1.6 million in tax sale premiums, which is a very large amount, and it's very nice to set in our account and collect interest.
Thank you. All right, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of passing Resolution 9-5, say aye.
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 And we've already passed 9-6 and 9-7. Now we're up to Resolution 9-8, which is a resolution of support for creating and preserving abandoned railroad lines into open space and recreational trails for Sparta Township and Sussex County communities, and establishing a committee to promote the growth and use of Sparta Township's system of recreational trails. May I have a motion to approve Resolution 9-8?
I move that we approve Resolution 9-8.
May I have a second, please?
I will second.
I'd like to make a quick comment on
Sure,
that.
please do.
So one of the reasons this thing cropped up, in addition to what Mr. Tenieri shared with us, is that we have several proposed trail projects that we've been looking at. And together, they would create, they would allow us to cook into a larger regional trail system. Right now, there's a gap in the trail system. And if you look at a map of the Sussex County trails, that gap is right in Sparta. And so there's a couple of places where we can close that gap. We've also been talking about a possible trail along that goes through the middle of town. And so being able to connect to a larger regional system does promote tourism and people coming into our town and through our town and using our, and looking at our facilities and our shops here. And part of what is making this even more attractive at this time is the rise in prevalence of electronic bicycles. And so with a lot of people now having e-bikes, those people want to go further. And so when we've been explained to by the New Jersey DEP representative that was here, people need larger trails or longer trails. And so this would be a good project for all those reasons. So creating and so because we have a couple of projects here, the manager felt, and I agreed that it would be nice to have a committee or a small committee. And this is a committee that I believe is a subcommittee of the Recreation Department, which would look at the proposed trail projects and come up with a plan. Do this first, do this second, do this third, something like that. Look at possible municipal grants or government-funded grants, and also non-government funded grants for trail systems, because there are plenty around. So it sort of help facilitate all those things and putting a plan together to get us down the road of connecting into this regional trail system. That's all I have.
Thank you, and I commend you for taking the initiative to have trails and a committee to really get moving on this. I think that this is a really quality of life initiative that is very important to the people of Sparta, and I know it's not only something that improves the quality of life, but if you look at what the National Association of Realtors has found, is that access to trails can improve property values anywhere between 5 and 15%. And so the extent to which there will be Sparta residents who will now reside at or near an access point or near these trails, we will be providing a boon to their property values, which then in turn helps us. So, and helps and improves our community. So I thank you for doing that. Thank you, Landon. And you've done a lot of work with this. I know that that's how we initially met with, you had told me, I think, what are we, 60 miles of abandoned trails all over Sussex County? And unfortunately, some of these projects had stalled out kind of at the county level. And so I think it kind of behooves us as a township to get moving on that. And if the county wants to assist with that or can provide key input, they definitely should. I think Councilwoman Quinn's suggestion about inter-service agreements between other towns, that's going to be important. But I think we do need to take a lead on this. It's a real good quality of life and property value initiative, so I'm glad to see it here.
And one thing our DEP rep said was that the state would maintain it for us and take on the liability as well. So it's almost a no-brainer.
Anyone else wishing to be heard on Resolution 9-8? Okay,
Like I said, I just think we should have a conversation about the direction before we announce it, because I'd like to strategize. I think there's a better way to holistically look at it. I'm not opposed to having this subcommittee. I think it's great. But before we go to that next level, let's have a discussion and strategize as well.
Yeah, and as I think we've discussed, is that we do have, a rec committee and a rec department, and I hope that we will keep them abreast of those and get their input, because we have a fantastic rec department, and obviously they would have an interest in this and should definitely have some input. So with that, I will, all those in favor of Resolution 9-8, say aye.
Aye.
Resolution 9-8 has passed. Next up is Resolution 9-9, establishing a committee to plan and promote the 2026 Sparta Institute Conference. May I have a motion to approve Resolution 9-9?
I will move that we approve Resolution 9-9 to establish a committee to study this, holding this event.
May I have a second, please?
I second Resolution 9-9.
And Dan, I know that you have taken a lot of work and done a lot of work with this, and so if you would, just explain to us what this is about.
So in brief, the town of Sparta in Laconia in Greece holds an annual conference. It's an archaeological conference every year in Sparta. Actually, last year's was held in Rome because it was sponsored by the University of Rome. But in 2020, we had made contact with the people from Sparta, Greece, because we are sister cities, and we wanted to do something together as sister cities. And the Sparta Institute has asked us if we would be interested in hosting the 2026 event in Sparta, New Jersey, wanting to open it up to all the towns named Sparta throughout the country and throughout the world. There's a couple of towns named Sparta around. There's one in Canada, one in El Salvador, and one in Turkey, all named after Sparta in Greece. So they're forming a committee of 5 on their side, and they're asking us to form a committee of 5 on our side that we could work together to plan out what this event looks like, what we can do, what topics we would have, all those things.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor of passing Resolution 9-9, say aye.
Aye.
Resolution 9-9 is passed. And Dan, thank you again for this, and I look forward to you educating us about our neighbors in Sparta.
To learn the words to the Greek national anthem.
Yeah, so and I hope you'll learn Greek too.
Yeah.
Dan, when are you going to Greece?
I think I leave at the end of August. I want to say it's like the 28th, 27th, something like that. And so I will be attending the 2024 conference in Sparta, which I'm looking forward to. On my dime, not on the taxpayers' dime.
That's an important qualification. Next up, we have Resolution 9-10, a resolution authorizing the displaying of commemorative flag on township-owned flagpoles to honor Olympic athletes, July 29th through August 2nd. May I have a motion to approve Resolution 9-10?
I move that we approve Resolution 9-10.
May I have a second?
I second 9-10.
And all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Same.
All abstentions? And Roxanne, you got the 2 abstentions?
Yes.
Okay. Next up are Resolution 911, a resolution authorizing the displaying of commemorative flag on township-owned flagpoles for the U.S. Coast Guard on August 4th. May I have a motion to approve Resolution 911?
I move that we approve Resolution 9-11.
May I have a second, please?
I second Resolution 9-11.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Abstain.
And next up is, Resolution 911 has passed. Next up is 912, a resolution authorizing the displaying of the commemorative flag on township-owned flagpoles to commemorate ratification of the 19th Amendment for the suffragists on August 26th.
I make a motion that we approve Resolution 9-12.
And may I have a second, please?
And I will second, and it's the suffragist flag that we will be presenting.
Okay. And all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Abstain. Okay, Resolution 912 has passed. We are now up to the council liaison updates, where council can update the public and fellow council members about the myriad of committees that we're on. And so I will start to my far left with Councilwoman Quinn.
Thank you. So the seniors met this past week. There's a lot of information to share. They are a busy, very, very busy group. In addition to the Senior Olympics, which is tomorrow, as Sam mentioned, also they have scheduled a senior farmers market. There's also a nomination form that is in circulation for the Sussex County Senior of the Year. So you may remember that we just did locally the senior award, but now there's the award application is circulating. Senior Day at the fair for any of our seniors in town, meaning the county fair. So that day, looks like admission for the senior citizens is only $4 at the state fair, and that is on August 8th. So any senior that would like to go to the state fair can attend for $4, and that will be on August 8th. In addition to that, there is a veterans picnic. I did share this information with Pete Litchfield as well. And that is going to be happening, hold on one second, August 17th from 12 to 3 at the Hamburg Fire Department Pavilion. So this information is super important, and I did forward that over through our Salute 07871 committee to make sure that they were aware of it. But if you do know anybody, any veterans, please let them know that the 11th Annual Sussex County Veterans Picnic will be on August 17th. There is a document called 5 Wishes, which is a very interesting, they were speaking about it. And it's really interesting. It talks through, outside of your living will and trust and things of that nature, your 5 wishes, and really articulating and writing down and capturing as you're getting ready to pass or you're planning for your own passing, what are your 5 wishes? So outside of, someone gets my toaster or somebody gets my house or whatever it might be, these are things that are a little bit different. So I asked to get a copy of this document so I could bring it here, but right now, Senior Services in Sussex County is providing these. So if anyone is interested in learning more about the 5 Wishes program, please go to the senior space on the county website. In October, the senior trip will be going to SCUMA. They don't meet in July or August, so we're going to be getting a tour of SCUMA. That's going to be happening in October. I did report last week about the status of Knoll Heights and that building. We did get a report at the last meeting that this is now currently on hold. And that is the update with regard to the seniors. I do want to also mention that the health corner has been updated again. So with regard to the health department liaison, they also reached out to Jamie Barker, who is an administrator in the Sparta High School, with regard to some first aid classes that they feel are pretty important, and some information with regard to first aid triage when it comes to traumatic cuts and whatnot. So that information went out, but if anyone is interested in looking at it, please go out and take a look at the health corner. With regard to Salute 07871, our 2025 campaign is open. So starting now, anyone can go out and put in their banner requests that will go in 2025. So the process is, as you know, we put banner orders in once a year. So for 1 year's time, residents can go out and by using our online form, they can recommend a serviceman or woman to get a hometown hero banner. So that's open right now. It will close again in April of 2025. You have plenty of time. Just wanted to let everyone know that it is open. I'm super excited to announce that we were approved, when it comes to the Parks and Rec Advisory Committee, we have great news. We were approved for a playground grant, so the one that we've been talking about, which is roughly almost $600,000 to build a fully inclusive playground. We were approved. This is great news. It will be over at Kids Castle. We are looking at not only members, input from members from the committee itself, but also from members of the community. We've drawn in a lot of really great insight from parents and guardians that have children with special needs. So we're super, super excited that we were awarded this and really honestly can't wait to begin with planning. In addition to that, in our July meeting, we will be very, very busy. We have a whole list of things to do. We are also going to be re-presenting, so you know that we prioritized and gave council a list. Now that we have a budget and now that we know where we stand financially, we will be reprioritizing all of those projects that we had submitted, and we will be resubmitting that back to the council in probably early August. So that is the update with regard to council liaison. One additional thing for the Municipal Alliance, we did a lot of great work this year with our unified athletes and our unified community. And I just want to wish all of them, we saw a lot of them at graduation this past week. So I'll talk about our entire Spartan family, but really they had a lot of, the unified teams had a lot of really great accomplishments, amazing accomplishments this year. And some of them won't be returning because they graduated last week. So I just really want to commend them all for their commitment and their endurance and perseverance and for a job really well done. So I just wanted to say that, and the Alliance was really proud to support them, as we are very proud to support our seniors, and we hope that they're triumphant tomorrow at Maple Grange in Vernon. I'll be checking in. I'll give you a report. That's it for me. What?
Yes, 600.
Almost. It's just under $600,000. We have to match about $250,000, I think, of it. But that money was earmarked because we knew that playground needed to be updated and replaced. But yeah, this is big news for us. This is a huge grant, and so we're super excited about it.
Ferris wheels, merry-go-round.
Yeah, and Councilwoman Quinn, if members of the public want to provide feedback about what they would like to see in that, particularly from our special needs community, how would they go about doing that?
So they can definitely reach out to myself or Jean Montemorano. We're probably going to be, I know that Jean has already started discussions. I would imagine that there'll be an online survey somewhere that will be available, and we'll share that information certainly with Jenny and with different media outlets so that people know where they can, put their information in, because these fully inclusive playgrounds have something for everyone, literally. So sensory, physical challenges, auditory, kinesthetic, visual. So there'll definitely be a space, and I would imagine it would be in the form of an online survey.
Thank you.
And just to build on that real quick, a big part of the cost is the preparing the surface of it. It's much more complicated than you would think, and costly.
Oh, yes. Yeah, because obviously the surface of the playground has to be
wheelchair accessible.
Wheelchair accessible, so.
Yeah.
So the BDC met, I announced that, I talked about it at the last meeting. We were having some issues, and I asked that all of the people involved in some of the processes get in the same room and kind of talk things out. which was a good thing because we discovered that a lot of it was miscommunication, misunderstanding terminologies, and I think we just needed to push for some new rule changes, expediting some of this stuff because certain people were lagging in the process. So I think it was a good meeting. I think everybody left with some homework, and I think it's going to really help the processes for the small businesses to get approvals. That's all I have.
Thank you. Dean?
Quick update on planning board. This June 19th meeting, planning board completed the hearing for planning board application 708, which was Fuss Holdings, and started and completed the hearing for application 711, which was JP Morgan Chase Bank. The planning board will actually be holding a meeting tomorrow night, which is an off-cycle meeting, an ad hoc meeting, so June 26th, 7 PM right here, to hear additional applications. That's it for the planning board. Thanks.
Dan?
I have a couple of updates. Revolution NJ 250 Committee meets next on Monday, July 8th, 7 o'clock at the VFW. The Environmental Commission met on June 13th for an open space planning discussion. I did not attend that meeting, unfortunately, but I heard it was a good meeting. This Thursday's meeting on June 27th has been canceled for lack of items on the agenda. And finally, my last update is on the Culture and Arts Committee. The concert series begins. The committee's making their last minute preparations for the start of the summer concert series. The first concert will be July 5th. So the next three concerts happen before our next council meeting. So the July 5th is Dustin Douglas and the Electric Gentlemen, and the opening act is the Outcrops. Again, the concert starts at 7 o'clock. Usually the main headliner will start at 8. The July 12th will feature Daniela Cotton, and the opening act is Part-Time Custodian. And July 19th is always favorite Billy Hector, and the opening is Johnny Charles. They're all good acts. Danielle Cotton has been there before as well. I'm not familiar with Dustin Douglas, but in any case, those are the next three. Again, I hope you take advantage of free concert, free rock and roll at Dexter Park. And those are my updates.
Thank you. I will update with the Sparta Film Readiness. We met last week. Members of the committee are busy working on getting the components of our application together. One of the most time-consuming components is trying to pick what beautiful spots in Sparta should be included, because there's so many of them. It's actually really hard to kind of cull that down. And so, it requires, not only do you have to include the pictures, but you have to have a description of them, which we're doing, and folks are working busily on that. Thankfully, we also have, some experienced members there who have provided like examples of release forms. When you use someone else's picture, you have to get a release, and so they've been very helpful with that. And next up is crafting an ordinance that will come before this council regarding the film readiness and sort of the permitting process and how this will actually unfold and who decides whether we're going to allow a film or not. Luckily, we don't have to reinvent the wheel on this. The New Jersey Motion Picture and Television Association, they have templates that they provide. They're very comprehensive. These templates, as I looked over them, have been adopted by other towns. If you look at what the commission recommends, and then you go check that against what other towns have adopted, for example, Montclair, they're almost verbatim. They're very detailed. They lay out the process. There's little tweaks here and there. So, for example, Clifton, where Janice Kovach, who spoke before this town council, they adopted most of that, but they have little tweaks here and there. I like what they have done, and so we will be hashing that out as a committee. Then we will, that will obviously go before every member of council will have a look at it if they have any questions. But the idea is we have to get that adopted before the August 30th deadline, which is the deadline that we're all driving on. So the deadline is August 30th. whether we get it or not, or when the commission designates which are the film-ready communities, that will be done, we're told, sometime in November. So we're busy doing that. I also am pleased to tell you that a member of the committee, Frank Dolce, is also a member of the golf club at Lake Mohawk, and recently discovered at Lake Mohawk Golf Club, a production unit from Netflix had come to town scouting out Lake Mohawk Golf Club for the sequel to Happy Gilmore. If those of you of a certain age may remember that, it was 1996. It's Adam Sandler. I think it grossed about $40 million at the box office. But they are scouting out certain places in Sussex County, and Lake Mohawk Golf Club is one of them. And so when Mr. Dolce and I found out about that, we quickly called up the production person from Netflix and told him about our committee and about the interest in bringing such productions to Sparta. And he was interested, and we're just one of other locations that they're observing, but we tried to sell them on Sparta. So who knows, maybe Adam Sandler will be in Sparta. They're looking to shoot starting the end of the summer through Thanksgiving, according to the Netflix production person. So I'm excited about that. And other people may have heard, I think right now on 206, we have nothing to do with it, but there's a film being shot right now on 206. I think that Newton is probably involved in. And we will refrain from saying where that's being on 206. Yeah. Also, I have the need to appoint an additional person. I'll do that under new business. We unfortunately had two people who due to work commitments, had to drop out. So, Madam Clerk, if we could remove Aiden Belasco and Joshua Nelson from the committee. And I also want to thank Councilwoman Quinn and Councilwoman Hertzberg for recommending George Segali and Lou Perez. They're fantastic. I know George is a bundle of energy and has gotten involved in a lot of different things.
Sorry, going back, did we get a written letter from the two that are dropping from the committee? I think we.
I
need
can
to-
get one, but,
Them email me.
Yeah.
Email me
All right.
that they're removing
Okay.
themselves.
okay, I will do that.
Okay.
Okay. And I think that, as Kevin alluded to in his public comments, part of this initiative is not only to become film-ready, but it's also to support local artists here. And we are fortunate to have a lot of local artists connected to the film industry who are working on their own productions. And so very looking forward to Mr. Ali's production that he is working on. And this will be completely staffed by Sparta residents and other people from Sussex County. There's no one else being brought in from, Hollywood or anywhere else. So it's an opportunity to do this completely in-house. And I think that's a fantastic initiative. And so I look forward to hearing how they progress. And so with that, I'll do it under new business, but the Route 15 update I'll just do now, which is that I have a weekly call with DOT officials and other local leaders about the progress. As of Friday, they had already, the concrete had been cured. This week they're actually putting in the overlay, the actual part of the bridge. And according to them, that they are slightly ahead of schedule. I think they're shooting for July 18th, but they're still on progress for that. I'll have another meeting with them on Friday, and I'll send out on my council Facebook page. But also, I encourage people to look at the mayor of Jefferson. He's been fantastic about, obviously, this is in his jurisdiction, and he has been very transparent and very good about keeping the public informed about progress. But I do think the businesses along there are suffering. And so I would encourage our Sparta residents to please patronize some of those businesses along Route 15. They're not technically in Sparta, but they are our neighbors, and they could use help, particularly the ones where they'll let you down far enough. There's one after the sign, I think it's the new barbecue joint. That's one's gotten particularly hit. And so if you would, find it within yourself to patronize those. That's just what being a good neighbor is all about. So,
I'd like to also add that we have Sparta businesses along Route 15 as well that could use some patronage as well, that are being impacted by the traffic.
yes, and with that, I did, I think I may have alluded to in the last meeting, there are programs that the small business, sort of the Small Business Administration of the New Jersey Economic Development, that they make available. And although they're not targeted to just this, maybe a business owner who may have not ever known about this says, hey, wait a minute, I think if I can get a capital improvement loan, now's the time to do it because my business is suffering. So thank you to Tammy Horsfield, who sent out that information to all the members of the Sussex County Chamber. And so I hope they will avail themselves of these programs. I do know there is a bill being contemplated in Trenton to try to see if any emergency funding can be provided to municipalities that are affected by something like where there's a DOT project that goes horribly wrong, and then businesses have to suffer, whether there can be emergency funds. I think Senator Space is working on that, so I hope he will be successful in doing so. And with that, that ends my update, and I'll do the appointment when we get to new business, old business. Or did anyone leave anything out of their council liaison updates that they want to now add? Okay. If not, do we have any unfinished or new business? And I'll start with Dan and work my way down.
I have none. Thanks.
Dean? Yeah, three actually. So first I wanted to congratulate and recognize Officer Michael Poon for receiving the Mothers Against Drunk Driving, the MAD Award for Sparta, and thank him and all of our police for their dedication to keeping our roads and our residents safe. Second, I just want to make a comment because I did attend the Environmental Commission meeting last week, which was a public session on the open space plan. I attended along with our town manager, Jim Zepp, Corey Stoner, and Jean from our recreation department. And there was a good number of people from the public there. I think some of you that I see out there. I found it extremely valuable. I would encourage you to watch the recording if you have a chance. It was not only about the process and the scope, but also there were some interesting findings, initial findings, and some interactive exercises during the almost hour, highlighting some of the things that stand out for Sparta residents and what they value about living here. And it's just a start, but it was very interesting to see that. And there will be multiple other public sessions. There'll be a planning board and town council meetings and presentations by that committee, I understand. But I just wanted to, because I was there, I just wanted to add a comment on that. And then finally, I had the pleasure of being at the Council Connect meeting last Thursday at the library, Thursday the 20th, and had some good conversations. There was 5 residents that stopped by, and most stayed for the whole time, which was great. I see one out there at least. The different topics came up. One was about Cultural Affairs Committee, summer concerts. There was also interests and questions about the council and the town's plans and priorities for the future. Another resident shared some concerns around neighborhood safety and speeding. There was another resident that also shared information around investments and properties and business development. So it was a really good experience. I encourage anyone out there and people watching live stream to try to make those Council Connect sessions at the library. And that's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you. Josh, any new or old business?
No, I just want to say that I got to, see Kevin in action with his whole team the other night, and it was really impressive. What a great group of people, really dedicated and really knowledgeable. Not having any exposure or experience in that, watching them do their work and watching the way they get ready to do something at this scale was pretty amazing. So I just wanted to give you and your team some real credit because it was really impressive. That's all.
Thank you. Councilwoman Quinn, any new or old business?
Yes, so if
Okay.
you have not, I know that we always spend a lot of time talking about our library and how wonderful it is. If you have not had a chance to go to the library or go online, this is what's going on in the library over the summertime for children and teens. This is unbelievable. I happened to be there the other day, and I picked this up, and really, it's amazing. And I just wanted to thank everyone, staff, leadership at the library, for putting together such a robust, comprehensive program. I think it's amazing. So I'm encouraging anyone, in addition to the children's programs, they also have a lot of adult programs going on. So I encourage everyone to get out and take a look at what's going on at the library. Also, I want to make sure that we send our absolute most sincere well wishes to all of our 2024 graduates at Sparta High School, at Veritas, at Pope John, at VOTEC. So we have some just amazing, outstanding kids from our township that are, another great group of the future leaving Sparta. And it's just really, I think this is the last class that was affected by COVID in any way, shape, or form. So, God willing, we have that behind us. And I just want to say, it's pretty remarkable when you go to these ceremonies and you listen to what these kids have done and what they've accomplished and what the valedictorians and salutatorians are saying to each other. It's pretty amazing stuff. So I just want to, on behalf of all of us, congratulate our graduates and also their families. So with that said, also want to let everyone know that the Sussex County Chamber is offering professional development scholarships to full-time employees of Sussex County-based chamber member companies. The deadline to apply is coming up. It is July 31st. Scholarship consideration is offered for courses, conferences, webinars, and other educational programs. So if you are a locally owned business that is a member of the county chamber, please make sure to take advantage of the scholarship opportunity that is available. And lastly, I did speak to the township manager after receiving multiple complaints with regard to the condition of Main Street, Woodport Road, and the infrastructure on those roads. Something that I did not know 30 years ago when I came up here was the amount of different roads that are owned or that comprise Sparta. So you have your private roads, your county roads, your town roads, the Sparta Township roads. And as you're going through and traversing through town, you cross over all of them. And the little gotcha there is that if, as a municipality, we are not allowed to do anything with a road that is owned by the county or by the state, for example. So we are at their will, so to speak. We can recommend that things be updated. We can ask that things be updated, but we are not allowed to go in and update them ourselves. So I wanted to let everybody know that I did speak to Jim with regard to these problem areas. They are falling into disarray. He did assure me that he has reached out to the state in some issues, in some instances, and also to the county in some instances. We're also waiting for a grant that will support us being able to do work on Main Street, which hopefully also will include the recommendations from some of our residents about beautification of Main Street. But that can't happen until we get the sidewalks and the roads fixed. So I just wanted to make sure that I provided an update on that. And that's it from me.
Okay, thank you, Councilwoman Quinn, and thank you for your words about the Sparta graduates. Both Councilwoman Quinn and I kind of sweat like a thief in church on last week in the 95-degree heat at the Sparta High School graduation, but it was well worth it to see those really talented kids move on to the next step. And as part of new business, I forgot to mention that I actually, through one of the award ceremonies that I attended, one of the award recipients was a young man named Miles Williams. Miles received an award, I think, for writing in English. I think that's what and as part of the award, they talk about his aspirations, and it mentioned that he has an aspiration to be a screenwriter. And so with that, I approached him and his brother, who was with him, his guardian, and it said, hey, you should come check out our film committee. And he has. So he's sort of like a student intern, and I know that he gets to now see, because of what Mr. Ali is doing, he can kind of see from soup to nuts how a film is put together, how a screenplay is written, and so it's a tremendous educational opportunity for him. But I mean, that's part of what we're trying to do here, is that we have is not only have the talent that we already have, but actually nurture talent. And so I'm glad to see that he is a member. We also have a student intern who lives in Sparta, who is from the Newhouse School in Syracuse. And if anyone knows anything about the Newhouse School, that's one of the preeminent schools for communication in the country. Most of your production folks who are on, say, the big networks probably came out of the Newhouse School. So that next I have, as I alluded to, we do need to, I will make a motion that we appoint Roy McDonald to the Sparta Film Readiness Committee. Again, another talent and a hidden gem that we had in Sparta. Mr. McDonald has decades of experience, particularly in editing and lighting. He has done sampling and digital editing for recording artists like Cinderella, Laura Branigan, Richie Blackmore. He has edited TV shows and documentaries like Wife Swap, Celebrity Apprentice. And kind of most interesting is that he invented a specific type of lighting for television and movies that Steven Spielberg has used in a ton of his movies, and including Nickelodeon. And so this is someone we have in Sparta. He provides sort of the technical expertise, because one of the selling components that we have, and I think it is an advantage that we have over a lot of other towns, is we have a lot of subject matter experts on this committee, handling all different facets of production. And so that is something that, when I spoke to Netflix, I told them about, that we have people who speak their language and who can, they'll have a knowledgeable people that they can talk to. So with that, I would like to appoint Roy McDonald to the Sparta Film Committee. So I make a motion to appoint Mr. McDonald to the Sparta Film Ready Committee. May I have a second, please?
Neil, just real
Yes.
quick, did he, I didn't see, did he put in an
Yeah,
application?
he did.
Okay, I
Yes.
just want to make sure.
Yep, thank
Okay.
you.
I'll
Okay.
second it.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Welcome, Mr. McDonald, to the Sparta Film Ready Committee. The next thing I want to share, I know that we alluded to in the last meeting about Mr. Castamore and his concerns over the AO polymer site. And I understand that we are considering looking to a consultant to review the plans or the reports that the EPA has made, and reviewing that, and then so we have a check against what a government agency that has made certain findings and conclusions. I will note that none of the findings and conclusions have changed. You can find out for yourself looking at the AO polymer site. But now that we have decided to investigate this further based on the concerns of an individual, I will point out that there are, on another issue, there are subject matter experts, people who are defined as technical stakeholders, that have real concerns about the new forest initiative that the DEP is doing. And people know this as Sparta Mountain. There are real concerns that the science underlying the DEP's decision-making to clear-cut a lot of that is shaky. In fact, there's an expert at Drew University who has written extensively about this. And so now that we are, taking concerns from the public and then and trying to put our government officials through kind of the hoops, I think that I would recommend, and then I will be looking into this, that because there's going to be more clear cutting that's going on Sparta Mountain beginning in November. They've had a public comment period. But I think the public it would help the public to understand that if someone from the DEP can come here and explain why they're doing what they're doing, and showing us the data behind this program and whether it's having the effect that they say it is, because there's those that are not. And I think it would facilitate the discussion to actually have people who have taken issue with that. And so there are subject matter experts on this issue, and I think if we put the DEP there along with the people who have those criticisms and have that discussion, I think that the public can be assured about whether this program makes sense or not. I know there is a study out that the Department of Energy did for the Federal Department of Energy that said that, one oak tree that's 40 years old will hold enough carbon more than 151 newly planted oak trees. And so if you're concerned about climate change, you want to kind of keep those old trees. You don't want to cut them down. And so I think it would be helpful to have that explanation. So I hope that in the future we can have that discussion and the public can be educated, town council can be educated, particularly when it involves such a valuable resource like Sparta Mountain and our old growth forest.
Neil, we've had those, just so you know, and it is part of their contractual agreement with us that they do keep the residents informed. So we did have in this room, we had them come, we had a night where everybody could come and ask questions. This was before COVID, obviously. But in reviewing the actual contract, if you take a look at what they've got, there's a lot of requirements, and one of them is they have to provide these open forums. I'm sure Dean would tell you, that's a big part of it. They have to share the plan, they have to share what's going on. We also asked of them, because it's very important also to note, I know you're drawing a distinction between, or a similarity between Jim Castamore's request and that, but one thing that's very important to note and for everyone to understand is we do not own that property. That property is owned by the state. So it's a very thin line because we don't own it.
And
It's-
one, has the safety of children involved.
Exactly. And so one is property that we own where we're very worried about public health. And I'm not saying that the health of the other is not important as well. But I think if we look into the contract and we reach out to them, I'm sure they'd be willing to come back out, just like what they're really required to do. When they finally came here, one of their issues was a huge amount of turnover. So somebody had reached out, I guess, to Sparta years before, but then they left, and then someone else reached out and they left. And so I think a good place to start there would be to have somebody just reach out and see. I think the last meeting was between Ogdensburg and Sparta because pieces of it butted up against both. So it might be a good place to start, just to reach out
Well,
and,
And they didn't only do the meeting here with a forestry expert who came and gave the presentation of why they were doing it, but then
Right.
they also took people out
yes,
to
on
the
a tour.
Yeah, and walked through and explained it.
Yep.
I
So,
mean, and from my recollection, and you can correct me, it was because the whole mountain had been clear cut 100 years ago.
right.
So they were trying to fix something that we did to the mountain to bring it back into a more natural state.
But the tour was really amazing.
It was.
Unfortunately, it was pouring rain, but the tour was amazing. And to the point, Neil, just rather than having you start all the way from zero, I think you could build on what they've already gotten, what we've done before, and maybe just recreate that and get them
Yeah,
back in
I'll look
here.
into that, and I think that, not only getting someone from the DEP, but I think the DEP needs to stand behind what they say. And if they believe in it, they would be willing to then have a discussion with those who may have a different point of view. And these aren't just, random people off the street. These are people who live and breathe this forestry and this initiative. And so I think it would be helpful to have not only the DEP representatives, but representatives, and I would even consider reaching out to this professor from Drew University, and to have her there, and so we can have a full and frank discussion about this. And if they believe in it, they'll come and they'll talk about it, and they'll, assure the public that this is the proper method by which we should preserve our forest, fight back against climate change, and will lead to all the wonderful things that the DEP says is going to happen as a result of this. So with that is all I have. And with that, we are now up to the final public comment period. And this is more of a grab bag, and I know Mr. Devine had some comments that he wanted to make on a matter.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor.
And thank you for having the patience to wait. And
No, I just forgot the process, so it's my error. I had come tonight prepared. I usually speak extemporaneous, but I prepared some ideas so I can fit in my 5 minutes. But based on some things that were said earlier, I wanted to address a few of them. One is Councilwoman Quinn, I couldn't agree more about monitoring the activity of the subcommittee, which I'm on. As the deputy mayor pointed out, there is a Gantt chart in preparation. It's not classic and then that has a strict timeline. It's more event-driven because it's tough to pin down the timelines. But that would be perfect for the council to examine, to watch the flow of money and make sure things were proceeding. I thought your home equity line was a pretty good analogy. You're not going to draw any more down and give it to them unless you're happy with the progress. The other point is, I think that the mayor brought up, at the very first meeting, we went around the members and said, what's your priority for what we're doing? And we all agreed on what a master plan should be, et cetera. I said, I think there are cases where we have zoning ordinances, the whole thing in place that are, put us at risk. And I think and I said, I would like to, I don't know if you were there, Dean, or not. I said, I would like to make that, if not a priority, let's keep it in mind. So if something jumps out early on, let's not wait till the plan's finished before we try to get the council to take action. So I intend to keep trying to push that piece of the agenda. We did cancel, I think, 3 meetings because I found out later was because no money. We were supposed to cancel last week's meeting, but the last minute we held it. Somehow we had funds for that. So my reason for coming tonight was try to request that we figure out a way to fund this. And I'll give you a few reasons why I think it's important. I don't want to get into a whole separate argument, but I think there were at least 2 recent applications that benefited from what I would call ordinance changes that didn't go in the normal pattern. They might have been stimulated by a kind of a backdoor approach, not accusing or anything else. But certainly a lot of people feel that happened. I'm not blaming any planning board members. I honestly think they're doing the best job they can. They interpret the ordinances, the zoning, everything else, master plan, whatever, and guided strongly by the attorney, they make decisions that they believe are within their charter to make. And oftentimes, a large number of variances are included. What it seems to me, and I can't back this up by a lot of data, it seems very common that regularly things are approved. Worst case, they are disapproved, they sue and they mediate, whatever. A large number of them end up getting approved. I wondered if, in fact, if anybody ever did metrics of a planning board, maybe benchmarked it against other towns. It seems to me our approval rate might be really high. And why that concerns me is at the last meeting, there was approval of a 4-story multifamily building, and there were a couple outstanding issues that I don't think got addressed intelligently. But in any event, the thing was approved. Now, I found out later that apparently the recent zoning change, which is one of the ones I've referred to earlier, could in fact allow all the land from behind the Burger King down to West Shore Trail, believe it or not, and correct me if I'm wrong, it could allow that to be clear cut, so to speak, and replicate this 4-story structure all the way down. Okay, now whether that's realistic or not, I don't know. But if that's on the books and is a possibility, are there other things that are equally hotspots, so to speak, that I would like to find out? I think we need a revised master plan to make major changes, as pointed out earlier. If there's something critical, we can treat it separately, and I hope we do that. I don't think necessarily that changing master plan in this way is anti-business. Councilman Hertzberg brought up a few times that there's a sense among the small business community that we are unfriendly or difficult to work with. That bothered me. I felt like that was just hanging out there. And I was going to ask tonight if there's any update, but you already provided it.
Well, so I was called to a meeting with 30 businesses that wanted to know what they could do to fix the situation. So I don't know each and every one's issue, but I'm not making it up.
No,
And
I completely,
that is the feeling of the business community in town.
I'm not arguing with it. I completely agree. I'm very happy to see that you're taking some real steps about it. Because the last thing I think we want is to have a reputation of anti-business. I think that's essentially it, but I don't consider balanced development as business unfriendly. Prioritizing the character of the town is responsibility and the right of the town residents. I'd like to feel confident that the planning board is doing everything they can to advance the concept of the town that I think most people share. Frankly, and again, not against any particular members, I don't feel confident that it's going in that direction.
Thank you, Mike.
Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Are there any business owners that own businesses that rent out their, any commercial real estate people or commercial business owners that are on that committee?
Not to my knowledge, Josh, I don't know.
So there you go.
Love to have one. It's not up to me, but
No, I know. I'm not blaming you at all. But I don't
it's a
think
good
there's
idea. Why
a
not?
good cross-section of people whose interests are represented.
I can't speak for it. Maybe Dean can, but I would welcome it. Absolutely.
Yeah, the subcommittee now is township staff, professionals, resident volunteers.
Yeah.
With the plan, like is done with all master plans, to have extensive outreach to stakeholders and all different aspects of the community to get a collective, broad set of input
And
criteria.
I believe Ally, is that her name? She has a background in commercial real
She
estate.
does,
Yeah.
And she wasn't there this time. I'm not sure if she's still involved or not, but
Okay.
I'll mention it to somebody. I think it's a great idea, frankly. But
it's
I really
important
feel
that-
strongly about small businesses. I've heard a number of anecdotal things that consistent with what you're saying. And if there's something we can do to change that perception and change the reality, not the perception, I think it'd be great. Thanks.
Yeah, we do have, just to clarify, we do have some small business owners. Right? I mean, we have an attorney, we have Jenny, who are
I'm
both,
sorry, I didn't think.
yeah,
I apologize.
right behind you. So we do have those two small business owners right now.
Okay. Sorry, Jamie.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay, anyone else for public comment? And make sure you say your name and your address, and you keep mindful of the 5-minute limit.
Okay.
Thanks.
Sean Landy, 41 Sagamore Trail. I'm part of the film committee. I just wanted to say that I'm excited for all the things that are coming. Right now, Kevin Ali and Justin Karpowicz and George Segal have a short film that possibly might be filming at Burger and Butcher that we're really excited about, called Subversion. I'm really happy about the news that Neil had mentioned, Mayor Clark had mentioned about possibly Happy Gilmore too. I didn't know about that until today, so that's really cool. Thank you, Councilman Hertzberg, about our team. We really had a blast the other night. So, and that's what filmmaking is like. It's like a kind of a big collaborative party where you make something happen. Councilwoman Quinn was talking about the library. The library is amazing. I was actually just happened to be there the other day, and I happened to run into Deputy Mayor Blumetti, and that meeting seemed really cool. Sorry, I didn't mean to like quickly go, but I wanted to say hi, and then I sat down, and
Yeah,
I
it
was
was great having you there for a bit. Yeah.
I was
Appreciate
listening to it. It was interesting,
It
but
was.
yeah,
Yeah.
the library really is like one of the gems of our town. Okay, that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Kathy Ebbinghaus on Scudder's Road. I wanted to come here tonight and bring attention to something I recently came across to get a little more information about it. That is the nationwide opioid settlement. I'm not sure if it's been raised here before or to what degree, so I wanted to raise it tonight to understand a little bit more about where those dollars are going. So as I understand it, this opioid settlement is to settle lawsuits that have been happening recently over drug companies and obviously opioids. And that was, I think it began in 2022, if my research serves me, and I believe it's expected to yield about $50 billion in the next 18 years. If I have anything wrong, please let me know. So I did some research, and online there's apparently some databases where you can look into how those monies are being handed to state and local governments. I looked up New Jersey. It appears New Jersey is expected, based on what I found, to receive about $520 million total. And again, these are just statistics I found from a database, so hopefully that's correct. So that's New Jersey. And then in Sparta, it appears so far we have received, since 2022, about $53,000 with an estimated future payout in total of, I believe, $272,000 between now and 2038. So with that being said, I wanted to ask a couple of questions. First, call attention to this. Second, to help the public become informed of how these funds are being recorded, how they're being tracked, how they're being accounted for, et cetera. And I would like to hear ways that those dollars are being spent in ways that are related to contributing to the support of and programs of individuals that have that aim to curb this addiction and eliminate senseless deaths that are caused by opioids. And finally, I didn't see it in the budget, so that's the reason it's kind of coming to light now. I took a look at the budget that was approved last meeting, and I didn't see any reference to it. So those are the reasons I'm bringing this here tonight, and I'd like to understand more.
So I can speak to that I give updates to that at almost every single meeting through our Sparta Municipal Alliance Resource Team updates. So what is the money being used for? The money is used by the police department. The money is used by the Municipal Alliance Resource Team. The police department uses it for things like Narcan, lead day, lead training. We did receive about $53,000. The chief could speak to more of what the police department spent their allocation on in detail than I can. What I can tell you is because of these funds, as I've reported numerous times, the Alliance Resource Team has rebranded its direction. So we are doing things like putting speakers in schools. We are looking at programs, additional recreation programs, really sponsoring and taking the emphasis off of the message of, don't do drugs, don't do drugs, don't do drugs, to looking at live your best life. How can you live your best life? How can we encourage you? What programs can we put in that really offer something for everyone without a negative message to pull them in a positive direction? And if you want to give me a call, I am more than happy to walk you through it, but I give updates at pretty much every meeting. I actually provided everybody and a big report not long ago about all of our new logos, all of our new vision statements. It's a very exciting time. Our alliance this year expanded to include all the schools that are located in Sparta Township rather than just the Sparta Township schools. So we are working with the charter school. We are working with tech. The monies are expected to go over an 18-year period of time. Most of the funds, if you've read the report that's online, are down in South Jersey in huge amounts of numbers. So we have no way of controlling how the monies are divvied up. We just get the monies. My understanding is as they're paid. They are earmarked in a special fund. Sam could speak to that. And then again, that's how we are utilizing the funds. So this year we are excited, and I've said this before, speakers in schools, new programs. We're actually looking at mental health, screen time mental health. I did a presentation about that at the last meeting. So it's all about being physically and mentally healthy, and how can we provide all these different things to make people be that way, because statistically speaking, that is the most important deterrent. Having great character, feeling confident, doing things, being out, being physically able. Those are the best deterrents to substance use and abuse. And obviously, we have our existing programs in place that are funded through the Jakarta, and that's also an amount of money that we got from the state. That program is probably going to be stopped. They're not sure. Originally, it was funded by programs that came in through drug court. So fines, penalties, things like that are what funded it. We're not sure. It's not a large amount, but through that initiative, we also run programs through schools. such as Just Say No, the RX programs that they run, the peer development groups. There's a lot of different things that we use that money for as well. And again, that's a much smaller amount, but that is a combination of how the monies are being spent. And when Chief McCarrick is here, or if you send him an email, and again, if you'd like to meet with me separately, I'm happy to walk you through and show you all the different stuff that we've been reporting on so that you can get more awareness around it.
Yeah, it seems like it's more proactive to look at drugs as a negative, right? And the opioid crisis didn't really come about because of a negativity. It became not in the traditional negative sense of the word drug, right? It was through pharmaceutical manufacturers, right? So your characterization of, well, people feeling good about themselves, that's not necessarily a good characterization or the total picture of what opioids do to a community.
But that's not all we do. That's a
just
new
saying.
component of what we do, which is why I said there's two sets. So we think it's very important to do both, not just beat people with a message. If we're going to say, we support all these programs where we're directly addressing that, but we also want to be in a positive way as well, part of a solution that brings people to a better place and that gives people the opportunity to be able to engage in things that they maybe wouldn't have before, that will help them to have better mental health. There's a lot of different triggers. You can't just say that the opioid addiction crisis came from overprescription. That is a huge piece of it, but it's not just that. It's people that are mentally challenged, or they're facing challenging times. They're self-medicating, they're self-harming. There's a lot that goes to it. So although I'm not disagreeing with you that opioid prescription is a huge driver, it is not the only driver. And that's what we are trying to address. We're trying to address it in a well-rounded way to really have the biggest impact.
And Kathy, I think that I did, when I sat down with Chief McCarrick about the annual report, I did see there's a line item in the annual report about the opioid funds. My understanding, and Councilman Quinn can correct me if I'm wrong, that's in a separate trust fund, and the police have some discretion over that, but I share your concerns. I'm a member of the recovery community, and part of that is not only to keep people, kids, but it's also to keep people in recovery. As anyone knows who's dealt with addiction, relapse is very, very prevalent. And I know that we will safeguard these funds and see that they are used in a way that's directed at the problem. And I know probably what you're referring to, there have been some articles about other towns that have kind of looked at this as a slush fund that they can use to fill potholes and buy new police cruisers. And yes, and that's unfortunate. And I know we will not make that mistake at all, that we will target this to the communities that were affected by that. And also, I think it is, as Councilwoman Quinn pointed out, it is very important to have this kind of positive message and keep people off in the first place. But the people who have unfortunately succumbed to this addiction, they struggle mightily. There's a whole lot of issues facing the recovery community, and I hope that we will also focus on them and identify them and find out what they need and try to direct some of the funds to them, because the best thing you can do for a recovery person in recovery is get them off of it. They are a net drain to society if they're addicted to drugs. And so once they're off, they can now be a net positive. And so I know that we will focus on that. But I think Chief McCarrick can speak more to that. I know it's in the annual report. So I look forward. I thank you for, this is an important issue, one obviously very important to me, because I've seen both the awfulness of addiction in others, but I've also seen the amazing stories of success when they get the treatment that they need and they get support from their community. So thank you.
Yes, agree. And because it is 18 years, that's the reason I'm bringing it up as well, because I didn't see it in the budget, and I'm hoping it can be raised in the budget as well. Not just the police portion, right? Because it's more than just the police portion. That's
I
the
think it's in
total
a
of
separate
that.
trust fund. That's
Referring to just the police portion of that, though, or to the?
It's the
town?
whole amount is in the
The
trust
whole
fund.
amount.
Like
The
that's,
whole thing.
yeah, and
And
that's
that
probably,
doesn't get represented in the budget?
The county has control of the funds and they disperse them to us as
As they
allotted.
receive them.
and then we put it in a trust fund, right? The county says,
We
here
have
you
a
go,
line
here's
item.
50 grand.
We
And
have
we
a
do.
line item.
We have a line
within-
item.
Within the grant fund.
Okay, got it.
How does that allow you to plan for the year, what you're going to do with that?
Well, basically, again, the county's sort of driving the bus, and we have to do what they tell us we have to do.
So we plan based on the amount of money that we have, and then we're cautiously optimistic because again, we aren't sure. There's nothing in a contract that says you'll get $53,000 or 40,000 or 18,000, on the 18th of every year of June or whatever. It just doesn't work that way. And my understanding is the reason why it doesn't work that way is because it's as the funds are paid, as the fines are paid.
Right.
So what we do is we operate within our means, and then we are hopeful that we will get another infusion. And again, we have the Chicada funds, which are very, very, very small, but we use those as well.
I
So,
hope it would be more than a hope, because, I mean, there is a schedule here for
Mm-hmm.
the next 18 years that dictates, according to what's already been allocated by the settlements, that it continues to increase. That is literally here on a piece of paper.
no, I know,
that
I've seen
you're
it.
expecting.
Oh, I've seen it, believe me, but there's no dates, time schedules, or anything else that goes along with it. It says you will get this, you are projected, I believe is the word, or anticipated, or some word like that, to get these funds yearly over the next 18 years. But it doesn't give you a date, it doesn't say on this time, it doesn't say for sure. So, I mean, there is a little ambiguity to it, but I can tell you right now, we are unbelievably thankful to have it. So if they can't give me an exact schedule, that's okay. We'll plan within our means, make the most of all the funds that we have, and we will wait until it comes.
Great, and we all look forward to hearing, how the money's being spent, and, we'll keep the public apprised of that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment? Jenny, go ahead.
No, sorry, I'm back.
You have to state your name and where you live again, Kevin, sorry. We follow protocol here, sir.
My name's Kevin. All right. So, no, I just wanted to give a couple more details before I left. So again, I wanted to thank Josh again. It was a blast the other night. Just having everybody there. It was surreal getting that experience, especially with the lighting and all the details. So just to give you a precursor, the short film that is going to be shot at Josh's place is going to be called Subversion, and is going to be a prequel to a show that will be shot in industry this fall. And after saying that, I will give it to,
But you can't share your time, so Kevin, you're going to have to speak separately under a separate 5 minutes, so. Okay,
okay,
thank
that's it for
you.
me then.
I have a couple of things to follow up on. First of all, Sam, is the tax sale premium different than the tax sale? Jenny Derrick's tapping to Sparta, sorry.
Basically, the tax sale is the sale of all delinquent taxes from the prior year. So we'll be selling all the 2023 taxes that have not been paid yet. The premiums come that, and this is really good that we have an online sale. It's very competitive now, so we get more bidders.
Okay,
The premiums are the amounts that the bidders place in order to secure the property. So, they bid up the interest rate or bid the interest rate down to get the property, basically win the property from the other bidders.
okay,
So then, once they bid the interest rate down as low as they can get the interest rate, they'll start working on tax sale premiums, and the premiums is the amount of money that we hold. So basically, after a 3-year period, the lien holder can start foreclosure procedures on the property. If they foreclose on the property, basically, we're allowed to keep the amount of premium that they bid.
okay.
If the property owner comes in and pays for his liens and everything else, then we return the premium back to the lien holder, And basically, we keep all the interest that we generated on that, having that premium in the bank. Sometimes, I think the largest premium I've seen us collect has been up to $500,000. And right now, I have probably 3 or 4 premiums sitting in the account that go back to 2020. So in another year, if the person doesn't come in and redeem the property, basically, we can take possession of those premiums, which would be to the tune of about $300,000.
Thank you. Is it okay that that took like half my time?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, but you're,
I appreciate the answer. Thank you, Sam. And this is for Tom Ryan. Our fair share commitment housing resolution, I can only find a couple of things. I know that someone, I believe it was Angela Braccato, negotiated our most recent settlement with the courts.
I think it was Tom Collins. I'm pretty sure it was Tom Collins.
I don't think
No.
Angela Boccato wasn't
Tom
involved in it.
Collins.
I thought I remember him sitting up on the
Maybe.
dais,
40%.
talking, giving reports about the
I thought that was the
ongoing.
old one.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say. We have something from 2007-8 that I could find, an agreement, but that only dealt with a resolution about the funding that goes along with the fair share housing, like the money from the trust fund and the dispersion of funds and so on. What I was looking for was a COA agreement. There's a particular ordinance 2004 that is established to give incentives for COA.
Right, then are you referring to the housing element
Yes.
fair share plan?
Yep. So my question specifically is, does our COA agreement, and I'm sure, I don't know, I'm not expecting you to have this off the top of your head, does our COA agreement, whatever it is right now, and I understand it may change because of the recent rule changes, did it specifically require the language of 2004, the ordinance 2004 that established incentives in the TCC and other similar zones to incentivize low-income housing? Or did we have the option of, here's what you need to do, and then we built the ordinance around it? That's my question, and I don't expect you to have the answer.
Well, I will comment on it because you really captured some of the key words right there. And yeah, what it required us to do is to implement policy that incentivizes affordable housing.
But it didn't specify what those incentives had to be. So for example, if we wanted to help Knoll Heights, really there's a need for low-income senior housing. Could that be part of the?
You know, it really does come down to some tight language. I mean, what was required is a practical policy, practical plans that will realize the achievement of increased affordable housing.
Jenny, I'll just tell you, we were told, because we brought that up specifically, and we were told we could not dictate what kind of affordable housing it could be. That we couldn't dictate that it was senior affordable housing.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank
Because
you.
we tried.
Yeah, another word, that is imposed by the courts is inclusionary. So it would be across the spectrum of senior housing, low and moderate income housing. So those were the types of words that I wouldn't say they were required to be in the document, but those are the words from the law that the agreement would be evaluated against.
Okay. The ordinance 2004 does reference that we have to have at least 4 lots as a requirement of the court. So it would seem that that was a smaller amount than was actually programmed for. And this is a discussion for another day, but I just wanted to find out if the court requirement was an actual specific dictation of what was in the ordinance, or if we were given leeway, which it sounds like we were.
Yeah, I mean, it was a negotiated settlement.
Right.
Correct.
Thank you. And I'll be following up, but I appreciate that. Is there a county commissioner liaison? Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. do you, both of you?
Yeah.
Do you get regular input or do you have interactions with them to know? Because the way the way the Diamond Chip Realty Planning Board non-approval negotiations are going, it's open right now they're waiting for Diamond Chip to submit a new plan about how they're going to mitigate that intersection between Demarest and Limecrest. But we don't know because they don't publish minutes. They don't take minutes. Well, now they do, but we don't know to look for. So what I'm asking for is if you could find out, maybe ask frequently, has Diamond Chip submitted a plan? Because it's open right now and they could drop it in at any time and we won't know because there's no notification that this group is meeting. And the only way to get the minutes is if I Oprah them.
Are you
So
talking about the Sussex County Planning Board?
Sussex County Planning Board, that's why I'm asking if there's a liaison to the board because I know that Mr. Carney is the liaison to the planning board and he has said that, he has to work, so he relies on the minutes. They didn't keep minutes until I asked them to. So we have no mechanism to know when they are dropping in their new plan.
So now they keep minutes, but you have to Oprah them.
Correct. That's the way it goes. So I was
Just from a public meeting?
exactly. Well, it's a private meeting, but they weren't keeping minutes. It's the committee of the planning board.
Oh, okay.
So I appreciate that maybe there's an opportunity to.
I mean, we could definitely touch base with them. We met with them not too long ago, but I don't think any of that was happening.
I don't think you would know you would have to know to ask for that. So I appreciate that.
I think the last time we met was 2 months-ish ago.
Okay.
And,
Well, this
yeah,
just happened the end of May, May
yeah, we
22.
established a communication vehicle, and then and with the plan of maybe meeting quarterly, and I think the quarterly is about up, so I
Okay.
think it's about time for another meeting.
So the master plan funding, the citation of law that is noted in the language of the ordinance itself does say specifically that this funding mechanism, as recommended by Sam, does specifically list preparation of a master plan in the statute that is cited in the ordinance. So it's contemplated not only by Sam's guidance, but in the law. So I would hope that maybe you can consider that. We have approved large projects on the basis of a recommendation from professionals. We have a $10 million salt shed, for example. We have a brownfield solar project that is supposedly going forward. There are lots of things that we have. So I would just ask that maybe you could consider, and you're going to get more information, and I hope that makes you comfortable to be able to approve it. As Dean has said, the plan is to regularly update not only council, but draw in various groups from the community for their input, because it's everybody's master plan. And since we haven't had a full master plan review since 1984, it's time. So I appreciate that you're going to give that consideration. I did want to ask about the solar project, the brownfield, for an update, but Jim isn't here. I don't know if anybody has an update on that. Back in January, a letter was issued by the BPU that said our application for brownfield approval was insufficient and they rejected it.
We wrote a rebuttal that I think was very detailed and I think was correct, but we're waiting on a response.
Okay. And the understanding when the solar company was hired was that they were going to assume all cost for getting it closed. But I've had a couple of conversations with the manager, and the discussion has been trading Sparta land to the DEP.
Yeah, but that was to get us out from under the huge amount of cost it would be to reclimate that area.
But that was the whole reason for the plant, for the solar project itself, was to take that last 20% that was not closed because it was contaminated by the landfill, and remediate that, and remediation
This is all being requested by the DEP. This is like, it wasn't enough for them. It literally, it's like a shakedown. I've never seen anything like it before. They're like basically saying, give us money or we're going to say no. So this is a rebuttal to it, and it's like a negotiation.
Right, because the understanding was that that was the reason for doing this whole project, was to get that 20% remediated so we could then do solar, and this was
Well,
just a
there was multiple
bonus.
reasons.
It was, yeah,
Close the dump
Right.
correctly,
Right,
cap it,
Right, and-
close it, yeah.
right, which.
and make
which-
reoccurring funds, and hopefully, pay for that whole train wreck out there.
Right, but there was supposed to be no cost to the town, and if we're giving away land, that's cost to the town.
Yeah, well, I don't think anyone anticipated DEP coming back and shaking us down for more money, but that's what's happening, so.
I think that's all my questions for tonight.
I mean, when all is said and done, we will be collecting an annual lease payment of about $360-some thousand.
Right, but if we have to give away 10 acres,
It'll be paid for in the first year.
but we don't get land back. If we give away acres somewhere,
Listen,
we
I'd
don't.
rather not give them anything.
They're leasing it, though. It's a
No.
lease.
No,
She
no,
means
the
the
land
DEP.
swap for the DEP,
Oh, oh.
because remediation in DEP land apparently doesn't mean
They're
clean
trying to
it.
Gobble it all up.
It means
Yeah,
give us more land.
I agree. I hate that they're shaking us down like that, but I guess that's the way they do business.
Okay. And is there any anticipation of when we're going to get any additional updates? Is there a timeline for the,
For them to reply,
yeah,
yeah, hold your breath.
okay. Thank you.
Thank you. And I do know that, we're waiting to hear back from the BPU about the brownfield status, because I know it did get rejected initially on, certain grounds, at least if you read the order, on ones that seem to be easily curable, which, failing to submit, certain information that seems to be pretty curable. But we'll wait and see. And then I think it would be helpful, at least for me, maybe I'm the only one that doesn't understand it, which is, okay, if we lose the brownfield designation, what does that mean for the entire project? So I think that's something that I know that I'm concerned about, but we haven't heard back, haven't gotten a decision from them following the appeal, so.
Right, I've had the same question. Does it impact our access to the SREC market? Because that's what the letter from BPU said. Basically, thanks for asking to join our SREC plan, but you don't have brownfield status, so try again. That's what it seemed like.
Exactly.
Pass more.
Okay, anyone else for public comment?
Adrian Meerman, 12 Brook Drive. I would like to add one or two details to one of the points that was on today's agenda, namely the council liaison updates. And it has to do with the planning board's meeting of last week. The liaison update was very brief, namely that Floss Holdings application was approved. But I would like to mention, or just to observe one or two things from that meeting that I think we may want to possibly address back to the planning board. Mr. Blumetti, you are the liaison, so that might be still a possibility. One of them was at the very end of the approval for the Floss Holdings had to do with the color of the building. And the builder or the developer had brought 5 samples of the material they plan to use in different colors. The 5 colors that they presented were shades of taupe, which is the color of mud. Light taupe, medium taupe, dark taupe, and all of the colors were essentially unsuitable for a building that size in that location. Now, the material that they chose has a vast array of colors. In the greens, in the yellows, in the blues, colors that would enhance the appeal of that building. Now, the developer has been a reluctant developer in that every request that was made by the planning board and by the public, we had to fight for. But in the end, they came with a much improved design for that apartment building from how it started to what it is now. So if the planning board or some representative could just contact the developer and see if the color choice can be essentially amended by someone who has more architectural sense than what we saw at the meeting. It so happened that there were two other applications waiting for this application to be approved, and legal counsel essentially pushed through the color choice, I think Monterey taupe. The planning board, one of the members said, look, do we have to make a final decision on it tonight? And legal counsel said, yes, this is the color it should be, put it in the approval. This is what it is going to be. And I don't think that was the correct way to go about it. Mr. DeWine mentioned that not all decisions were that evening gotten the right attention. I think this detail, the color of a building in such a prominent position in town, should be chosen with more care than to say, look, the clock is running out, we have to choose, let's choose the color of mud. I think that was not right. Could you possibly, bring it back to the developer to see if other colors would work for him as they would work for us, and get an architect or a designer to advise you on this so that we can come up with a better color of the. The second thing I would like to bring up is in town, and Councilwoman Quinn, you have brought it up in the past, walkability, the sidewalks are a feature of our town. There is, in this particular development, a driveway leading up to the top of the hill to the building, and it has been given a 4-foot wide concrete strip as a sidewalk. I would like to see if the developer is open to giving that sidewalk a better appearance, like we have the sidewalks in town, a concrete strip for ease of movement, and pavers separating it from, say, the road or the driveway for appeal, but also for safety. The developer has been reluctant. He has often said, no, we're not going to do this in previous meetings, but then at the next meeting, they were amenable to improvements after all. You may remember the roof. 2 meetings ago, I asked him, will you put a nice mansard roof on it? He said, no. He said it very, very explicitly. Next meeting, yes, he had done so. So with the right approach, he might be able to give us the sidewalk that I think the town deserves, namely one similar to the ones that we have in town already. If you could bring that up, if there's a way to bring that up, I think that the whole town would thank you. And I thank you.
Appreciate your comments. The only thing I do want to clarify, I'm not going to commit to anything. I mean, the application, the hearing's over, it was approved. I do want to correct one thing. So the attorney did not say we must pick a color. First of all, applicants don't always bring in colors and pass out samples to the board. Our attorney was saying, when asked, do we have to do this before the vote? He didn't say we must. He said if we're going to pick a color, it's advisable and it's cleaner to do it as part of all of the conditions you're listing. So when you make a vote, it's in the resolution, rather than have any applicant come back later on, re-engage with the board, which is a lot of work, just to get advice on a color. So we were given the option to pick a color. Your colors that you listed were not correct, as they passed them along to us. So there was a brown, there was a cream, there was a taupe, there was a greenish, I'm not sure, they all have fancy artist names, you know what I mean, and there was a fifth one. So, and the bulk of the board, at least on that quick pass, not spending a lot of time on it, did align with one or two colors, so we suggested the one. As for the roof, the difference there too, we must remember, is the roof was part of the ordinance. So changing a roof because it was asked was because it was required in the ordinance. The colors, at least those selections, were not part of the ordinance, and they were just bringing them, as they said, to show us that none of them were offensive. They were all in that same range. So you have to remember the roof was related to an ordinance, and that, in their defense, could have stopped an approval. So Colors are a little bit different story. And the sidewalk, I know we talked about it. You came up that night and talked about the sidewalk, and the applicant answered. Again, the ordinance, the sidewalk met the law and the ordinances. So what you're suggesting, I believe, is that an accommodation or an extension be made to further the interests. But we have to be careful with that too. We could talk more offline or maybe at the planning board meeting. I don't want to do much more speculation or any speculation, but I understand your opinion and your concerns about part of that.
What I mentioned is based on what I asked and what I received as an answer. And it was based on what I heard. I understand the intent that Mr. Collins had to put the color in the resolution, but he very explicitly mentioned the Monterey taupe as the color to put in the resolution. And that was, as opposed to, I believe it was Mr. Sylvester.
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to have to cut you off because timing wise, and also I think this is probably probably more of a planning board conversation, just to be honest with you.
Yeah, but you are the liaison.
Yeah, but we have to watch the time too.
Yeah, and you also at one point denied the accuracy of my memory, and I just want
We
to
can we can go and watch the recording to see where it lands.
Sure. Of course, we can do that.
And I think that's probably something that could be handled before the planning board about, why was that included and, what are the proper protocols and procedures.
Okay, fine.
For that and whether, why is it that why did it have to be in the resolution, et cetera, just sort of understanding that is probably you're probably get a better, more informed answer from Mr. Collins than you will, with due credit to Mr., Councilman Blumetti.
Okay, that is an excellent solution. I just wanted to mention that what I just said at this microphone with my name attached to it was accurate from my perspective. It was accurate.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment?
Kevin Ollie, Newman. Good evening, council. So I have a couple of updates. Oh, better? There. So to kind of piggyback off what Mayor Clark said, I was made aware of the Netflix location scout that came up to Sparta. So I'm not sure if everybody was giving more information about it, but basically, Happy Gilmore's coming to the area. They set up an office at Secaucus, and they're currently planning to start shooting in September, from what I was aware of from my connections. I did talk to Mr. Dolce when him and Mayor Clark did discover about this, and gave him some insight from my perspective of how to negotiate and talk with the studios. So I know kudos to Mayor Clark and Mr. Dolce for setting that up. And as I informed Mr. Dolce and Mayor Clark, I'm here to assist in any way capacity to make sure that Sparta is the entertainment destination for film and television production. For number two, for Mayor Clark, he did allude that there's a production happening right now in Andover. So they're not going to be in Newton yet, from my understanding. If anybody has heard of Clark Duke, he was from The Office. He was in Hot Tub Time Machine. They're doing a raunchy comedy, and it's at the Bear Den. So I'm not going to get into the establishment, but they're going to be there till the end of July. So that's what's going on. And if I have any updates, I can give you guys offline. Third, Councilman Hertzberg, shouted me out graciously. Thank you so much. As my colleagues have alluded, we are doing a short film right now. Mayor Clark and Councilman Hertzberg have been instrumental, both sides. We're planning to do a TV project that I know some of you know about. It's codenamed The Industry, and it's essentially The Bear Meets Barry, in a sense. So if you haven't heard those shows, I strongly recommend you watching them. But it is a government conspiracy theory that's revolving around a paramilitary organization that's trying to take over the world, basically. And Councilman Hertzberg has been instrumental in giving us this establishment, Burger and Butcher, to do a short film. I've been getting with our team leaders, Justin Kirpatowicz and George Scally, who came up with the idea to connect this to our world. And this is meant to captivate audiences and generate awareness for the greater film initiative that we want to do it. But the key is we want to do a good, authentic story. We don't want anything with any sides, but we want people to get sucked into the world for what the world is. And to give you what we call a log line in the industry, it's a 2-sentence or 1-sentence summary of the short film. So Subversion is about a former soldier turned fugitive who must meet with his handler from the CIA to ensure his safety while uncovering a conspiracy that threatens national security. Again, this is going to be set for a Prime Video release. We're trying to negotiate with Apple right now and see what goes on, but this is setting up the greater show that's going to take place sometime after the events of this film. I'm delighted to announce that we have Jeffrey Owens from The Cosby Show, who's going to be a cameo in this, and we're working on getting other cameos to highlight Sparta for the film initiative. So that's all I got.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
Any other public comment? All right, seeing none, may I have a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, we are adjourned, and thank everyone